What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Tuesday show, gang. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. Massive 12-game, messy, ugly, disgusting-looking slate to deal with today. Should be a fun one. Feel like we're going to be all over the place in this show, but that's okay. We're going to get through it. Try and be as efficient as possible while we go through a lot of these options. It is a really messy pitching board. A lot of good names there, but we're going to get into it because there's a lot of sticky spots on it. Cujo's here. Andy's here. Kenny Woodhouse is here. Good to see you guys. Everybody else out there, anybody who's joining in a little bit, joining a little bit later on and catching up, anybody who joins us halfway, I'm saying hi to you too. You just don't know it because you didn't listen to this part of the show, but that's okay. Welcome. Good to see everybody. Successful night for a lot of people last night. Saw some good lineups going through our Discord with some very nice results coming through. Tigers bats came through. Some of those Angels bats came through. I know, Jake, I'll get there. Just really nice combinations of a lot of things we talked about. Profitable night for me. Nothing crazy. Couple of bucks in the pocket, though. Always good over losing money. Only played a few lineups as I've been doing lately, but right back to it to get again tonight. I think I've got some decent angles that I created my placeholder on one of them. So we'll take a look through. But yeah, as Jake points out, the Twins also came through in a big way. But as Jake points out, Tom Thibodeau fired by the New York Knicks. We'll see if it comes out in the wash that it's one of those, he's relieved of coaching duties, but he's going to get promoted into the front office and, be the president of basketball operations or something like that. They didn't announce it that way. The way the rumors are coming out are fired. We'll see. But my immediate read is that it's Johnny Bryant almost for sure for the Knicks. I think he's coming in, and I think it's going to be announced fairly quickly because the Suns are pretty hot after him, apparently. So I think it turned into you have to act now kind of a situation if you wanted them. There's other names out there, obviously, but that's the one that's been kind of where there's smoke kind of a rumor all along. A little bit of obvious connection to the team and, obviously a successful guy with a lot of buzz. So I think that's the way they're going, but we will see. Obviously, strange result for a guy who took the constantly flailing Knicks into the playoffs as a guy with a lot of Knicks history himself. Took them deep into the playoffs, then deeper into the playoffs. I thought he had a messy Eastern Conference Finals. I didn't think he had a great playoffs in general as far as some of those decisions he was making. Some of the leaving guys on the bench for too long kind of exposed it. Some of my friends were just saying, Jay Wright, it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world, obviously, but I'd be surprised by that one. But that would be fun. Reunite him with his boys. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, just strange result. That's why I think it might be, and Tibbs is so connected to the Knicks, it probably comes down to whether or not he wants to, just very much wants to keep coaching. If that's the case, then I can see why it would be fired over, moved into the front office and relieved of coaching duties. But we'll see how it all comes out in the wash. I'm sure they at least offered him that. It would be weird if they were just like, nah, you fucked up. See ya. But we'll find out. Anyway, let's get into this thing. We can't spend too much time. Otherwise, it'll be 8:45 and we'll be 6 games into this slate. Double the games we had yesterday. Going to try and do it in the same amount of time. Or so. Let's see how we do. So again, ugly pitching board. We'll get to that in a moment. Let me start. I'll do the usual breakdown. As we get started, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Really appreciate any subscriptions. We got a new person picked up a subscription during yesterday's show, but it's not enough. We need more of the people. A couple hundred views should equal a couple new subscriptions. Should equal a couple extra thumbs up. I'm not the type to harangue you guys about hitting the thumbs up button, but we got to get that ratio up a little bit. I feel like this is at least a decent quality show that deserves maybe a little thumbs up. You don't have to, I'm not asking you to invest in the show or anything like that. A little click, not too difficult. If you go a little further and click the subscribe, that's even more appreciated. Feed the algorithm for me. Anyway, Guardian. Oh, and check out rotoscouts.com where the projections live and where you can subscribe for under $1 a day. The more important plug. And you get access to all the baseball projections, the top stacks board, the home run picks of the day. You still get basketball. You still get hockey through the finals. It'll be a 4-game NBA finals. It'll probably go deep for NHL, though, so we'll get a few out of that. Showdown slates all. And then right around the corner, we'll be back on NFL, believe it or not. Anyway, Guardians, Yankees. Good one in the Bronx. Guardians at just a 3.36 implied total against Carlos Rodon, but we know that he can get got from time to time. We know that's a very hitter-friendly environment. It's a nice, warm, sunny day in the upper 70s here in the New York area, so I can definitely see that. It's Tanner Bybee on the bump for the Guardians. Yanks pulling a 4.73 implied total. They're getting Jazz Chisholm back in the lineup today, so a lot of upside for the Yankees in a home game, positive hitting environment, so on and so forth, but Tanner Bybee is a good pitcher. Christopher Sanchez on the bump for the Phillies. He's basically fine. 89 pitches in his last one, 83, 88 in the last 3 after taking that weird just exit from an early game. So seems perfectly fine, perfectly stretched out, and no problems there. But going up against the low strikeout Blue Jays team at a high price, one of the more high-end pitchers on the day. But that bumps right into the problem of the day where a lot of the good pitchers are facing really good teams, or at least teams that are somewhat limiting. And then a lot of the other name brands on this slate are maybe a little bit limited for pitch count. So it's not a great slate as far as pitching. You're taking some shots all over the board. But I do like Sanchez here against the Blue Jays. And then Bowden Francis, I think, is a pretty big target for some Phillies bats. I wanted to make Kyle Schwarber the home run pick of the day. I would call Kyle Schwarber as close to, and it's nowhere near a lock, for an actual lock, but like, my real home run pick of the day is Kyle Schwarber against Bowden Francis. He's just like 25% owned tonight. I didn't want to use that one, but he's going to hit a home run against Bowden Francis tonight. Brewers and the Reds. Low 4s total on the Brewers side. Higher 4, mid 4s for the Reds. I kind of see it the other way around. I'm going to be honest. Freddie Peralta on the mound for the Brewers and Hunter Green going for the Reds. I really see that flip the other way. Freddie has been a little bit bumpy in some short outings recently, some earned runs, but also some strikeouts. There's plenty of strikeouts for him in that Reds lineup. We'll get into it, but Hunter Green's been a little bit bumpier in some short outings himself. He's got maybe more strikeout upside, but it's very, very close. I don't know. Maybe we split the difference and put them both even at like 4.25. Angels and the Red Sox. Big upside for the Red Sox, but they are facing a lefty again. So there are those potential, downgrades to that lineup. They scored plenty of runs against the lefty yesterday, and it's a very gettable lefty today. That said, Kikuchi has been good for the earned runs that he's actually limited. Over his last 6 starts, he's given up 7 earned runs total. Handful of strikeouts in every game, but he also walked the world. And eventually that catches up with you. And against the good offense that can draw walks like the Red Sox, it seems dicey at best, or good enough offense, middle of the road offense. Brian Bayo on the bump for the Red Sox. I see the upside for the Angels as well. The one issue there is that he typically keeps the ball down. He's a little bit difficult to hit a home run against. So that does take away a little bit of the aggressive upside for the Angels, but they still project out very well. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a high scoring game in Boston again today. Diamondbacks and the Braves. Spencer Strider threw 90 pitches last time out. So for me, I have Strider projected for a full outing here. The more limiting issue there is facing a really good Diamondbacks lineup. They're pulling a 4.15 implied total against him. So that's a kind of tricky spot. But Strider's definitely appealing for the upside that we know is in there and can come through against anybody. Zach Gallen on the mound has been pretty problematic over his last 4 outings. He's given up a total of 19 earned runs in 4 starts. Hasn't gotten through the 6th inning. We know that Zach Gallen can be very, very good. We know that Zach Gallen can be very, very gettable like those outings. So another problematic spot, and I'm coming up with a decent amount of Braves showing middle of the board type power upside, a 4.95 implied total, and all those appealing bats at fairly cheap prices, kind of like that spot. The Rangers and the Rays, an 8-run total in that game. It's Tyler Mahle, it's Drew Rasmussen. Middle of the board type game on all 4 corners, I think. I'm not in love with either of the starters. I don't love either of the offenses against those starters. At a 3.75 for the struggling Rangers, and then a 4.34 implied total on the Rays side. probably land with more Rays against Molly in a home game and, maybe target that short porch and right and the just upside of playing in Tampa Bay. And maybe that's what carries the day as far as bats on either side there. So I probably would lean bats before pitching in that one, but I think it's very usable pitching as well. The return of Sawyer Gipson-Long for the Tigers. I believe we're getting 5. He's been stretched out in the minors, 5 1/3 in his last one, 4 innings to start before that. Just faced 17 and 18 hitters. That's where I kind of run into the question mark, though, and say I think we're getting 5. He's a talented guy. He's found some strikeouts along the way, including in 20 innings, 4 starts back in 2023. He had a 31.7% strikeout rate. It came with almost 10% walks, but that was in the show over 4 starts. So maybe a legit contender for some Ks at a sneaky point, and he's going up against the White Sox, so it's obviously a great spot. 4.84 implied total for the Tigers. The one thing you might note in the power index and in the model as we get into it and talk through that game is that Shane Smith is keeping the Tigers' home run numbers down a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised by any one of the Tigers' power bats, and they went off pretty big time yesterday, Kerry Carpenter. Wouldn't be surprised if Kerry hit another one today or another one of the lefties or just anybody in that very hard-hitting Tigers lineup. But Smith, in general, is pretty good at limiting home runs and always was through the minor leagues. So it is having a little bit of an impact there, but it's not really impacting the overall projections. 4.84 implied total is obviously very appealing, so Tigers bats definitely in play. Royals and the Cards, a 9-run total here. The Cards pulling a big chunk, 4.94 against Michael Lorenzen, who can be got from time to time, but also has a number of very good starts this year. So a middle-of-the-road kind of Cardinals offense there. They're benefiting a little bit at that high total. I don't love that spot, but we'll talk it through at the very least. And then the Royals I kind of like against Andre Pallante. He's another guy, doesn't give up a lot of power, has given up some home runs throughout the year. This year, though, has been a little bit more gettable in that department this year. The Royals are just very good up and down as far as limiting strikeouts, and he strikes out essentially no one anyway, gives up a lot of general contact. So even if it's a sequencing type game, I like the upside for the Royals. They're pulling a 4.16 implied total that I think underrates them a little bit. We also get Jack Caglianone in the lineup, presumably in the lineup. They called him up. I can't imagine it's to sit on the bench. That's a Royals and Shea Whitcomb thing. Or Astros and Shea Whitcomb thing. So I like the upside for KC, especially if they're a little bit sneaky here. Orioles at the Mariners, seeing a lot of upside at another spot where it's kind of not reflected by that Vegas total and a low total in general for that game in that pitcher-friendly stadium. Mariners pulling a 4.08 against Tomoshigano, who has been definitely good for keeping runs in check throughout the season. 4 earned runs at the most. So maybe it's not the best full stack spot, but I got 3 guys above the magic number. They're the usual suspects, or 2 of the usual suspects, and then the home run pick of the day. From that Mariners lineup, Tomoshigano has given up nothing but premium contact, a lot of home runs this year, and he's vulnerable to lefty power. So at the very least, Cal Raleigh. I almost made Cal Raleigh the home run pick of the day, but I felt similar to him even at lower ownership as Kyle Schwarber. It would just be like, you're going to the guy who's leading the league. Wow, real clever. So I wanted a different left-handed bat in that Mariners lineup. Also love the upside for Julio. But again, maybe it's not filled out to a full 5-man. Maybe it's better as a 3-man. Maybe it's a better source of one-offs on the Mariners today. And then not seeing much for the Orioles. They're going up against George Kirby. He only threw 72 and 78 pitches. We maybe get him like 82, 85, something in that territory. Probably should have said that as 80 to 85, not 82, 85. Like that's how I actually said that, like the number 82 to 85. 82, 85 is what I should have said. Maybe that's what we get from Kirby here. He also hasn't been good. He was bumpy in the minor league rehabs. He gave up 5 earned runs in the first appearance, 6 earned runs last time out, 3 home runs allowed to the Nationals as well. But a spectacularly good pitcher when things are right. I don't think we get much Kirby here, but it might have a limiting impact on the upside for the Orioles. Padres, 3.61 implied total. Very low-end option there. They're going up against Landon Roop, who has been a little bit up and down, but has been mostly good as far as earned runs, and he's been good at keeping the ball in the yard by and large. So that's an interesting spot there as well in another pitcher-friendly park. And then is Ryan Bergert on the mound for the Padres. He's also gotten stretched out a little bit. He threw 4 innings in 2 of his last 3 starts in the minors, 3 innings in another one. So they're working him to come up and make some starts here. I don't think we're going there. He's pushing a 4.48 implied total toward the Giants. They look pretty decent. There are upside bats in that lineup, so we'll talk them through. Pablo Lopez on the mound for the Twins. This is what I mean when I say this is a really messy slate, because I don't love Pablo Lopez in a lot of spots. He's been okay this year. Strikeout numbers have been down a little bit in general, and it's a really hard-hitting, good A's lineup in that park, in good hitter conditions. But he's got them at a 4.24 implied total. He projects out competitively with the top of the board, and he's one of the names on the slate that is one of the more functional starters. I just consider it a very high danger spot. We're going to be saying that about a lot of these today. So again, it's a messy pitching slate. Would play him, would play A's against him at 4.24. And then the Twins looking like the stack of the day again today, 5.88 implied runs going up against Jacob Lopez, who got nailed for 7 the last time out over just an inning and 2/3 against a probably lower end Blue Jays lineup. 7 earned runs, 2 home runs allowed, no strikeouts and a walk. Ugly performance, and coming into this ballpark could get even uglier. Mets and the Dodgers in the nightcap again. That one's looking pretty good. Tyler McGill. I'm a big believer in Tyler McGill as far as the strikeout stuff, as far as his general upside. It's just another one of those spots where like we have to target the Dodgers to get there with him. What I'll say about that situation though is on a slate like this, where like I just said, so many of the good pitchers are going up against tough teams, it does become more of a why not attack the Dodgers rather than a why attack the Dodgers like I normally say. With one of the better strikeout pitchers on the slate, it's obviously a very, very challenging situation, and they're pulling the second highest implied total at 5.21. So that's a good reason why not to attack them. They're not a great target for strikeouts. That's another good reason not to target them. But you'll get Tyler McGill fairly low owned. There's nothing about this that says he can't get through that game. I don't completely hate it as much as I might otherwise. Clay Kershaw on the bump for the Dodgers. I don't think we get a full outing. He threw 83, 26, and 74 pitches in the last 4 innings, 2 innings, and 5 innings in his most recent. Has been okay. His limited earned runs in the last 7 innings that he's pitched, just 1 earned run. He only struck out 4 and he walked 3 over that same course of time, 6 hits allowed. So don't know fully what we're getting here. 4.40 implied total for the Mets. Definitely suggestive of upside for that very, very good Mets lineup. But again, it's bumpy around all the pitchers. You can see where Kershaw lands, though. By comparison, here's where McGill lands. Again, in 86, 83, I think that's worth doing at least a few times. If you're building 150, I think you should definitely have some Tyler McGill in there. Might not work, but you're getting a good strikeout pitcher in a terrible spot at a really good price. And by comparison to the rest of the slate, I mean, I have not as much faith in George Kirby. Normally, I'd be all over George Kirby in this spot, but I don't know that we're getting enough depth. I don't know that what the quality is going to look like. It's been ugly to start. He's a tremendous option, and I would play him at either of those prices, but it's probably in similar doses to Tyler McGill against the Dodgers down here. I don't think it's that separated, even with a little bit of a fantasy point gap in the projection. It's similar ceiling. Strider topping out the slate, 92.85, aggressively good price on DraftKings. Not a bad price to find Spencer Strider on FanDuel, but again, it's a really good Diamondbacks lineup that he's facing. Not a great target for strikeouts themselves. He is capable of finding 10 strikeouts against anybody if you give him 6 innings, but that's one of the more challenging lineups to face. So even him, you're getting the price discount, so that's why I actually do love the spot, and he'll be popular for that spot today. But it's a high danger spot against the Diamondbacks, even for him. Rodon at 10.7, 10.3, dramatically offset price-wise from most of the pitchers on the slate, or essentially all of them. The closest guy on either side is 10.1 from Christopher Sanchez. He's been terrific this year. He's found his strikeout form in recent starts. The last 4 starts, 10 strikeouts against the Athletics, 5 against the Mets, 8 against the Rangers, and then 10 against the Angels. There's definitely strikeout upside facing that Guardians team, but they've got some deadly good bats too. So don't love Carlos Rodon here, and that's just my general take on Rodon, but he's been undeniably good this year. Sanchez, again, we're stretched back out. I think we're fine on pitch count. He's facing Toronto, though, so it's a little bit low end as far as the strikeouts. That's what's creating the separation from Christopher Sanchez to Carlos Rodon. Against a slightly higher strikeout opponent, Sanchez, I think, is right up here. And it's not much separation. We're talking about 5 fantasy points in the projection. The ceiling is the same for him and basically everybody here. I think there's a pretty clear cut line right there where these are your guys that are, with probably the exception of Kirby, just because we're not totally sure where we are with him right now. But these are your upside starters. That's why they're the high price guys, obviously. But even among guys that are competitively priced, I do see a gap there. But again, Toronto, Milwaukee, Oakland, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Baltimore with an innings and form question, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Arizona. There's not a bad team among those. So it's a tough spot for every single one of the high-end starters. Green, major strikeout upside, but major downside via the runs allowed, the walks, the some of the bumps. So challenging spot. A little bit of potential power on the board, but obviously capable of a 10 strikeout game against basically anybody. Molly against Tampa Bay, again, loosely or more than loosely playable, but I don't love it. In that ballpark down in Tampa, I think I'd much rather be on bats on either side of that one. Gallen against the Braves, I'm coming down more on bats. He projects out just fine because he can break off good games, and there are strikeouts in that Braves lineup, but that's not the most appealing thing in the world, and I'd rather have Braves bats against. Kikuchi, nobody in the world trusts Yusei Kikuchi. He's 84 on FanDuel. He projects out just fine because he does have the upside to miraculously continue limiting runs, and he does formerly have better strikeout stuff than we've seen. So he's kind of in the middle. What he is on DraftKings is aggressively cheap. So I think he is one of your better, anyway, SP2 options of the day. He fits in nicely with any of the upside guys, and you can get double cheap here. Like, there's really nothing wrong with going like that. Gallen, Kikuchi, and just take the chance. Because, again, everybody up here is facing equally good competition. You're taking a little bit of haircut on ceiling with some of these guys. High danger spot, high danger spot, high danger spot. Rasmussen against the Rangers, you can make an argument given their struggles at 77 that he's got value, but that ballpark is going to be working against him. So don't love it, but definitely playable. Bybee against the Yanks, 7,800, 7,300 is at least a little interesting. 7 strikeouts in his last outing, 8 strikeouts in the outing before that. Kind of found his form in those two. Previously, it had been low end for strikeouts. He had maxed out at 5. That was against the Tigers and the Dodgers. No slouches there. He gave up no runs on 3 hits to Detroit over 7 innings. 5 innings against the Dodgers. He did find those 7 strikeouts, but he gave up 4 earned runs on 7 hits, allowed home runs. So little in between. Yanks obviously a very challenging opponent, but we know that they can swing and miss with the best of them. So maybe some love for Bybee, especially at 73 on DraftKings. He is one of your more high-end SP2s. Gibson Long's going to be really interesting, 71, 68. I think you can play him on either side. As long as you get 5 innings out of him, I think he's viable, especially against that White Sox team with some strikeout upside. Kind of like it. Brian Bayo, I'm not a big fan of, but he's very, very cheap. Could limit that Angels team. I am getting more upside for the Halos. As long as he keeps the ball in the yard a little bit, though, he's got a shot. Needs to be efficient, get through innings at a good clip. That sometimes can tend to be an issue for him. Shane Smith against Detroit. Again, more limiting the power upside from Detroit in the model a little bit. Don't like him at all. Much more on the Tigers side. But he projects out kind of mid-board or below the middle of the board technically, but very similar to the exact middle of the board. Landon Root, playable against San Diego, but again, a tough opponent, low strikeout, very good team. Sugano, I'm seeing a lot of power upside from the Mariners. I don't love going to low strikeout, high contact, high versus lefty power contact. A lot of home runs allowed. Doesn't really fit, but again, 65, he's capable of giving you 6 clean innings against that Mariners team. Lorenzen against St. Louis, we're going to have to dig into that one. I'm not wild about that St. Louis team. I think he's probably playable at 72. We'll give him a look at least. Everybody in this range projects essentially the same. What is that, 1.5 points of separation from top to bottom there? So very much pick your poison there. Follow the ownership. Dance through the ownership. Follow the pricing. Matchups, if nothing else. Clay Kershaw against the Mets, I don't see it. Burgett against the Giants is tough. Palante against the Royals. Bowden Francis and Jacob Lopez these two are just hard nose. I can make a case at least for Palante. I think these two are more challenging. We'll get into it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Check out rotoscouts.com. Subscriptions only cost you under $1 a day on a weekly, monthly, or quarterly. And they give you access to anything that might hit that website. Things that you're guaranteed are every single main slate for baseball, basketball, hockey, football. And then I typically drop in when we're split slates on a lot of days. I'll drop in the early slate, the late slate, along with the main slate, at least for projections. For the main slates, you also get the power index, the stack tool, the home run picks of the day. Basketball and hockey, we're on showdowns through the playoffs. Football right around the corner. Check out our guys at acemind.io too. Optimizer and sim needs over there. If you use promo code rotoscouts, you get 20% off your first month, all in caps. Guardians and the Yankees. Yankees lineup just came in. 473 implied total for the Yanks. Tanner Bybee at 73-78. Again, very playable. 19.2% strikeouts so far on the season. That was prior to the previous two. He had only struck out a maximum of 5, and that only happened 3 times. Every other start was lower than that. But again, 8 against the Tigers, 7 against the Dodgers. Found the strikeout form a little bit. Facing a Yankees team that has a 21.5% average strikeout rate, but a lot of their key bats do have some pretty aggressively high strikeout numbers. So I think this is a targetable enough team on the right day, but it's the Yankees pulling nearly a 5 total on a nice warm day in the Bronx. There's obviously upside for Yankees bats here. If we had to make the decision, I think we go Yankees bats over Tanner Bybee, but I think at those prices, he is super playable here, and he's probably not going to be that popular. Check out what his DraftKings ownership looks like as we dive on in. Overall for the season, a 3.86 ERA, 4.36 xFIP, walking a few too many at 8%, 1.27 whip. Again, has not been outstanding, and he's allowing 9.6% barrels, 40+% hard hits. 88.6 on the exit velo is the saving grace. Has not saved him from allowing a bunch of home runs. 4.60 is a dramatically high number so far this season. But the 88.6 is a limiting factor as far as how that continues. There's some happenstance in that number so far. 101 and change by Stuff Plus, and presumably climbing as he finds the strikeout stuff. Yeah, single-digit ownership projection in the middle of the board. Maybe it comes up a little bit higher than the number that's over there at that side, but pretty low ownership. Maybe a little bit of a sneaky option. If you get 6 innings, 7 innings out of Bybee, you're probably succeeding here because it means he's probably limited the Yanks. Maybe he gives up a homer. There's 2 runs on the board, 3 runs. But if you're getting depth, you're probably getting some Ks along the way there. So I don't think he's off the board by any means. Carlos Rodon, obviously one of the top options, 10-3, 10-7, super expensive, but he's pitching to a 31.7% strikeout rate. The thing that's going to burn him ultimately, and the reason why he remains Carlos Rodon and a little bit less than trustworthy, is the 9.2% walks. It's only resulted in a 0.94 whip, which means he's probably gotten pretty lucky as far as his batting average on balls in play allowed. 213 so far. So where does the truth really lie? The xFIP is at 3.06 versus a 2.60 ERA. That tells you a little bit of that story, but he's been tremendous for strikeouts. He's been back in the old form for strikeouts, which is great to see if you're a Yankees fan. 13.2% swinging, 31.5% CSW. He is super playable here against the Guardians projected lineup with a 30.7% strikeout rate, but some of that is coming obviously from some super small samples. From the guys that we have fair samples on, that looks more like 16.2% with a 27.7 in there because everybody up top, all their key bats are very good at limiting strikeouts. They do have more overall strikeouts in the lineup this year. And if you get this configuration with like Jhonkensy Noel, he could blast one into the stands, but he could also strike out 4 times tonight. So there's upside for Rodon, but there's also a little bit of visible basement here. You do have some clear power marks showing. Noel at 8.48, J-Ram at 9.06. He's hit 11 already this season, 14 stolen bases, doing everything he normally does, 327, 384, 555. a 366 xWOB under the covers. He's just tremendous. Stephen Kwan in the top spot for 46, 3,000. Highly playable. Always on base. 313, 370, 438. A dynamite table setter who can drive the ball a little bit from the left side. Lefty, not necessarily ideal as far as driving the ball, but maybe he just deposits a few for singles and then comes around to score a couple of times. Ana Martinez in the 2 spot at 33.27. Very affordable. You want him at second base if you're playing him. Medium contact, light contact, actually. 2.4% barrels, 31% hard hits, 253, 274, 380. He needs to get on base more to find actual value, but he's been low strikeout, 17-1 this year, 19-5 last year. Drew more walks in the sample from last year. That would help the on base, obviously. So there's a little bit to like in the cheap price, the correlation, the low strikeout, put the ball in play option. But he's obviously the lowest end out of the top 4. Carlos Santana is very, very playable. 17% strikeouts, 13.8% walks. Tremendous option to throw at a guy like Rodon because he's going to limit Rodon's ability to find that strikeout, and he's very, very good at drawing those walks that Rodon does allow. I expect Carlos Santana to be on base a couple times today. 371 on base for the season. Overall, it's 262, 371, 401. He's hit 7 homers. He's looking very much like the version of Carlos Santana that we've always had. I see very little downtick here. 139 ISO you could maybe quibble with, but he's found his home runs. That's not far off of a typical Santana home run pace. 124 WRC plus. David Fry back for this team now. Just made one plate appearance so far this year. Last year, 14 home runs and 392 chances. Pretty decent slash line at 263, 356, 448. Creator runs 29% better than average. Another quality bat to just plunk into this lineup. You can also pile on top of that 21.4% strikeouts, 10.7% walks. It's not a super low strikeout rate, but it's good enough. It's around the average. 10.7% walks is well above the average. So that's another good hitter to throw at Carlos Rodon from the right side. Gabriel Arias, capable of putting good bat on ball from the right side. A lot of strikeouts here, but 10% barrels, nearly 40% hard hits this year. Similar to 2 years ago, 9.9% barrels that season. Slipped a little bit for power output last year. Noel, monster barrel numbers last year, 14.5% barrels. He hit 13 home runs in just 198 plate appearances, had a 288 ISO over that stretch. Overall, 218, 288, 480. It had a 268 ISO. Looked at the wrong one. 288 was the on-base percentage. Obviously, that's not a good number. 268 ISO, 118 WRC plus to break that tie. He has monster power. He costs $2,200 in Yankee Stadium against the lefty. Definitely a usable option. If I'm stacking Guardians, I am using Noel. But again, he could easily strike out 3 times against Rodon and once against the bullpen. By the way, the Yankees put what's his face on the IL, Leiter. So we're probably back to do Devin Williams in the closer spot, which is good. It's where Devin Williams belongs. My buddy Joe, big Knicks fan, just suggested Rick Brunson as the Knicks head coach. On the Yankees, I didn't finish off with Will Wilson and Austin Hedges. If this is the lineup that we get, mix and match quality parts there. Top of the Yankees lineup, Trent Grisham, 4,500, 3,100. Still very affordable for the quality that he's given us this season. 13 home runs from the left side, 253, 347, 518. He's just been mashing 15.3% barrels, 43% hard hits. Those numbers are up. The barrels are up anyway, year over year, pretty significantly. The hard hits are relatively in line with last year. The down actually slightly. They're in line with the previous season. It's not totally unreal. He's got a 380 xWOBA to support the reality of what we're seeing here. It's just the best stretch he's ever had. It's him fulfilling all of his potential from all these years. Ben Rice behind him at 49-33 has a dozen home runs. 253, 45, 35. Another guy who just gets on base like crazy when he's not hitting the ball into the stands. 19% barrels and 57.9% hard hits. Still fewer than 200 plate appearances for both of those hitters. So slightly behind the curve as far as the sample sizes, but they're obviously outperforming their sample sizes as far as the power goes. They've been tremendous. It's difficult to argue with. They're still affordable. Helps average down the pricing of Aaron Judge at 65, 5,000, which is a good thing. He's slashing 391, 485, 764 with 21 home runs. Could easily leave today with 22 or more. Cody Bellinger at 46.32. These Yankees are not all that easy to afford. Probably a little bit more challenging on DraftKings, but it's not like you can't put this together. If you went completely crazy and didn't include Judge, they're actually very affordable. If you just use those 5 guys, that's $47.60 a piece, and you get Trent Grisham, Ben Rice, Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, and Jazz Chisholm. That's not a bad stack in the full spectrum of the slate, but I don't think you want to go to the Yankees and not use Aaron Judge most of the time. If that's a stack in, out of 20 Yankee stacks that you built, fine, so be it. But it is challenging to leave Aaron Judge out of anything Yankees. But let's say if you just straight line it from the top, it's 5,060, so 51 a piece. That's challenging. If you went like this, 5.3, difficult. Definitely one-off options at the absolute worst for the Yanks. But I think you do want to build Yankee stacks, so it's worth that challenge. And you do have cheap pitching to work with, and everybody in mediocre at best spots. So definitely worth going to. Cody Bellinger, 10.6% barrels on the season, 8 home runs on the board. Had a nice surge to make his numbers look respectable. 191 ISO with 345 xWOB is encouraging for continued upside. He's improved the barrel rate and the hard hits dramatically over the last 2 seasons where he was. He's hitting for more power this year. Hasn't cost him in strikeouts. Walks are actually up. Strikeouts are technically up by 1.4 percentage points, but that's negligible at best. So really like the option for Bellinger from the left side of the plate here against Tanner Bybee. There's definitely upside for power. 6.30 on the home run model. You get mid 6s from all 3 of these guys, and that 4th guy, a little bit more than that from Ben Rice. Goldie, 48.33, slashing 333, 388, 486 with 6 homers, 5 steals. Creating runs 47% better than average to be better than everybody on this team except for Aaron Judge. Jazz, back in the lineup at 5,200 confirmed. 7 home runs, 6 stolen bases. Went into a big slump when it got cold to start the season. 181, 304, 410. Still a 229 ISO, was making premium contact with a 14.9% barrel rate. Now that it's nice and warm, I expect Jazzy to hit the ground running here in his return to the lineup. Anthony Volpe, 44.31, 6 home runs, 7 steals. He's getting on base at an okay clip, 187 ISO. He's fine. He's a decent run creator. He's not the best option for filling shortstop, but he has put good wood on the ball this year, 9.9% barrels, 46.1% hard hits. A usable piece, probably more so than JC Escada at the catcher spot. Not much of a bat there. 1 home run on the board, 240, 339, 380. He has at least gotten on base. He's not unusable, but he is pretty low end. He would help average down some of these prices, though, at 3,000. And then DJ at 3,200 at least has put good bat on ball over 51 plate appearances. Results have been pretty spotty. 239, 314, 326, and 15 points below average for run creation, but 8.8% barrels, 44.1% hard hits. Not bad. I expect the strikeouts will come down. The walks will probably stay high. He's usable at cheap pricing. 32 at second base is fine. 24 is better with first, second, and third on FanDuel. Carlos Rodon, Yankees bats, Tanner Bybee, Guardians bats. All 4 corners probably usable. Guardians bats, I think, are slightly more usable than that Vegas total would suggest. No lineups yet for this one. Burgo, North Carolina in the house. What's up, Edward B? Lone Wolf's here. Appreciate it, buddy. Lone Wolf saying, did anyone hear? If you haven't got the projections, get them. And then he says, did anyone hear my name on Awesemo today? Telling them you pay a buttload for their projections. Nice work. They are, look, they're very, very good at what they do. I would never try and make any kind of suggestions that they're not. Anthony Foley, I feel like more, maybe slot in more as like an assistant coach. Let Johnny Bryant draw up the plays, and I'll just be like the guy back behind him, like patting the guys on the back, saying motivational things to them. That's probably my role. R. Jones having a little bit of a problem. That's rough, buddy. You might want to go up a size. But yeah, like I was saying, we're obviously at very different price points. Me and the guys over at Awesemo, and that's kind of my goal. As I've pitched before, I'm very much here to help the people who are building 1 lineup, 5 lineups, 20 lineups. If you use my stuff across 150 lineups, it's Perfectly good for that too. But we're here to cater to the people who are 80 some odd percent of the community. The people who build a handful of lineups and don't put hundreds and thousands of dollars into their entries every night and don't want to pay hundreds of dollars per sport from these different sites. Under $1 a day, you get access to everything at rotoscouts. I almost said it's stochastic. But yeah, still a big fan of many of the people from over there and the people who have gone different ways. Emac, still a good pal of mine. He's in our Dynasty League that I mention all the time. He pops into our chat here. He might be listening right now. Alex himself, Awesome, always a good dude to me. Never had any issues with him or anything like that. So still a fan of those guys. Never go over there anymore, obviously, but still a fan. Phillies. Major power upside. Going up against one of the better home run targets in baseball. 6.33% home run rate allowed by Bowden Francis each year. 11.1% barrels, 48.5% hard hits. 90.6 miles an hour of exit velo on average. 5.04 ERA with a 4.47 xFIP. 19.4% Ks. He does find 10% swinging strikes if you want one positive note for him. He's been a mess this year. I think you're absolutely targeting him with Phillies bats. Really like the upside. Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, obviously a trio of stars. All three of those guys over the magic number for home run power. 18.11 for Schwarbs, I believe, leads the slate overall. Like I said, I really wanted to make him the home run pick, but he's going to be super popular today. 59.37. 56.43. Bryce is at 59.37. Differently priced from site to site. That's kind of interesting. I feel like FanDuel's got it more correct. It's very close, though. There's probably be just the same high price on both sides. But anyway, love the upside for a Schwarber home run, but didn't make him the overall pick of the day. He is the pick from the Phillies. Bryce Harper, love the upside for him, assuming that he's in the lineup. We didn't have him over the weekend because he got plunked in the elbow by Spencer Strider. Something to keep an eye on as we get the confirmed lineups in. Still no. Assuming he's there, love him. 8 home runs on the board, a 183 ISO. We know there's more than that. 10.5% barrels, 49.4% hard hits, a very shiny 393 XWOBA to cling to, a 131 WRC plus. Not like he's been bad. Turner at 58.36, pretty differently priced as well. That's a higher DraftKings price than it is a FanDuel price. He's slashing 299, 358, 423. What's not to like? 5 home runs, 16 steals, creating runs 20% better than average. Maybe he's not going to hit for as much power as he used to, but still 5 home runs is not nothing. The hard hits are down slightly. The barrels are down slightly, especially if you look back to 2 years ago. But we're still talking about a guy who's on base constantly, a fantastic table setter. Maybe he's a little high priced for that role, and that's why I probably prefer him on FanDuel. But excellent, especially against Bowden Francis. Bryson Stott, great table setter up top, getting on base at a decent 320 clip that he needs to improve to stay in the leadoff role. 93 WRC plus, should be better than that. He's got a better bat overall. 17.5% strikeouts, 8.5% walks this year. Last year, that was 16.3, 9.3, so we've had some slippage there. A little bit of a need for an uptick to push that on base, but an excellent option, another lefty in the top 4 to throw at Bowden Francis. Alec Boehm, 37-27 for his quality is ridiculous. Against a guy who's allowing plenty of contact, he strikes out 16.3% of the time and walks 3.9% of the time. We are looking to buy contact against this pitcher who allows such high quality contact at a pretty decent frequency of contact. Alec Boehm is ideal for that. First base, third base on either site. You can absolutely play him there. Slashing 265, 300, 379. He hasn't been great. 88 WRC plus. He's been downright below average as far as the run creation number. He's hit 5 home runs, but we're talking about a guy who, again, just puts consistent bat on ball. Last year was 15% better than average in a full sample of 606 plate appearances. Hit 15 home runs. Drove in 97 if you care about RBIs. 280, 332, 448. Don't care about RBIs, by the way. He can't control those. Year before, 274, 327, 437, 5% better than average, 20 home runs. Year before that, 13 home runs. Dude is just good. Alec Boehm is good. He is too cheap at 37-27 against this pitcher. You absolutely want to include him in your Philly stacks. He's a reasonably competent one-off on this slate as well. I have no issues plunking him at either third base or first base. Probably would use him at third. I feel like third is a little bit more shallow than first base is. So that's probably where I'd put him in that scenario. He's just cheap in the heart of this lineup. Could have a big day. Nick Castellanos, 41-29, carrying us very solid slash line at 281, 324, 411. 104 WRC plus, 5 home runs. Nick Castellanos type numbers. Another guy, relatively low strikeout the last couple seasons, medium walk rate. So you're buying contact again, similar contact to what Alec Boehm's provided. Max Kepler from the left side, premium upside, 11.9% barrels, 46.7% hard hits. He's slashing just 222, 310, 392. So we need to have some perspective. But he's got a 336 xWOB under the covers. It's very encouraging. He's drawing a 10% walk rate, which is also extremely encouraging. Hits the ball very hard and has had some major home run seasons. 6 on the year so far. 8.52 in the model, right next to JT Realmuto's 8.27. Realmuto's another guy who's scuffling as far as the back of the baseball card numbers. 223, 292, 359. Nothing to write home about. He's hit 5 homers. He's stolen 4 bases in 202 plate appearances. A little bit behind the pace. 81 WRC plus, obviously, is nowhere near where you'd want him. Strikeouts are almost an exact match for last year. Walks are up. Barrels exactly the same as last year at 10.4%. 44% hard hits, essentially the same as last year at 45.9. Those both are similar to the year before. There's not been any kind of slippage in the premium contact, in the approach. 266, 322, 429 last year with 14 homers and just 413 plate appearances. Year before, 252, 310, 452 with a 200 ISO and 20 homers, 16 stolen bases. Realmuto, at worst, is a very playable catcher at 3,600 on DraftKings, where you have to play the position, and he's cheap on FanDuel at 27. That's a very usable piece. And then Brandon Marsh. This is a 9-man lineup, up and down, 3,000, 2,300. He's been scuffling this year, but the on-base has come up. We're at 319. He's been good at getting on base in the past, 328 last year, 372 the year before that. He has a little bit of pop from the left side. He can swipe you a bag if he's on. 7.1% barrels, 47.1% hard hits this year. The barrels are down a little bit over the last 2 years, but the hard hits are pretty consistent. Walks are up slightly. Strikeouts are down slightly. So Brandon Marsh, 117 very good plate appearances so far, despite the 220, 319, 330, just 2 home runs, 2 steals. Christopher Sanchez, 95, 10, 1. I like the option quite a bit. It's a low strikeout Blue Jays team. That's the one wrinkle here. 425 implied total. That's probably built largely on contact. Sanchez is good at keeping the ball in the yard, a 3.4 degree average launch angle so far this year on 6.3% barrels, 90 miles an hour of exit velo and 43% hard hits, but we care about that less for this kind of a pitcher. At a point, like I said yesterday, that does equal more balls through the infield or more just line drives. But right now, at these numbers, and for him, we are not at all worried about those hard hits. That exit velo, just 2.36% home runs, a 112 rating by Stuff Plus. Look at the jump in Stuff Plus year over year. 96 and change last year, and what was a very effective season jumped to 112 and change so far this year. He's jumped from 11.3% swinging strikes to 13% swinging strikes. He's jumped from 20.3% strikeouts to 27.6%. Monster increase in quality for Chris Sanchez. It's obviously still a small sample, 11 starts, 59 and 2/3 innings. Not the most depth in the world, but one of those we came out early with some pain and then worked it out and was fine. Last year, though, again, monster numbers with lower end stuff. Kept the ball in the yard dramatically well. 2.4 degree average launch, just 1.46% home run rate over 31 starts, 181 and 2/3 innings. Strikeouts were lower, but it was a phenomenal strikeout to walk ratio. The walks are up a little bit this year. So is the whip. That's something to keep an eye on. But given the uptick, given the ability to go find some strikeouts, the fact that he pitched to a 3.32 ERA with a 3.19 xFIP last year, he's got the exact same ERA right now and has improved upon the xFIP. Every reason to go to Christopher Sanchez. He's in my placeholder lineup right now. On the Blue Jays side, I can make an argument for at least considering maybe some of the top of the Blue Jays lineup. Still no confirmed. We do have several very good righty bats to lead off. We've got several very low strikeout, very high quality righty bats to lead off to boot. So yeah, they're on the board slightly, but they haven't been great overall, both for DFS and real life baseball. They are creating runs at a decent clip up and down the lineup here. I'll give them that much, but they're not hitting for much power. We're not finding really any stolen bases along the way. So we're kind of limited for our output. And Sanchez is very good at limiting all of those things. So an already limited power team going to be clipped down even more on top of that. And they're weak through the bottom. Even after Ernie Clement week, he hit 2 of these 3 home runs in the last couple of days. and was ridiculous with the Blue Jays being at super high projections over the weekend, or maybe at the end of last week, whenever that was. But he's not that hitter. 283, 323, 399. I'll buy that he's going to succeed on some balls in play. 2.6% barrels, 26.1% hard hits this year, 3.8, 24.7 last year, 2.1, 19.2 the year before that. He's a low strikeout, put the ball in play frequently guy. He is not that power bat. Davis Schneider barrels the ball with decent frequency in small samples, but also tons and tons of strikeouts. Fairly low end. Miles Straw, Jonathan Klass, no thank you. Addison Barger, lefty. He's made dramatic strides in recent weeks. 14% barrels, 56% hard hits, essentially. 5 home runs overall, 267, 333, 483. What's he done lefty? Against same-handed pitching, Mr. Barger for the season, 222, 333, 333 with a 111 ISO versus the 235 ISO that he has against righties, 96 WRC plus versus the 135 that he has against righties, and 0 of his 5 home runs. He's hit 2 doubles, he's had 2 singles, he's had 4 hits. That's in 21 plate appearances against lefties. So obviously we've got to take a little bit of small sample caution there. If we add last year, we go up to 58 plate appearances against lefties. 5 doubles, 4 singles, 9 hits in 58 plate appearances. That's not an improvement. That's a downgrade. 170, 241, 264, a 0.094 ISO, a 46 WRC plus. Ouch. 506 OPS. Ouch. So yeah, maybe even with the uptick in quality recently, we're probably not expecting much against a terrific lefty. So really, we're just back to these top-heavy righties up here. Yeah, if you're building a bunch of Blue Jays stacks, absolutely. Include some Ernie Clement. Include some Davis Schneider. I don't know about Miles Straw. Classic. Maybe a few Addison Bargers, but he is definitely downgraded here. But you're going to have an overwhelming amount of the same guys that anybody else that goes to the Blue Jays is going to be using. 4,043 for Bo Bichette and George Springer on DraftKings, 31 apiece on FanDuel. Great pricing for 2 guys who have returned mostly to form. Springer at 257, 371, 474, a 217 ISO, 8 homers, 7 steals, creating runs 42% better than average, and a very, very appealing 404 xWOBA on 19.1% barrels, 48.1% hard hits. It's a monster return to form for George Springer. Vladdy, similar contact numbers to Springer, 283, 391, 438, creating runs 38% better than average, and he's also above a 400 xWOBA, 413 in fact. Bo Bichette at 376 xWOBA, creating runs 14% better than average on the surface, 277, 325, 430 with 7 homers, 4 steals. We're around back to form for him, and he's actually been mashing lately. Look at the increase in barrels and hard hits. This has been a recent development. If he's going to be hitting the ball like that and back to kind of form like this, that gets really interesting in a real hurry, because at 4,031, he is not expensive enough. And on DraftKings, that's a dramatically cheap price. High quality shortstop there. If nothing else, maybe a few shares as a one-off of either Bo or Vladdy, maybe some Springer as a one-off. Springer's a little bit more thin just because he's an outfielder versus a premium position like shortstop or first base. If I'm taking that one-off chance with a very high quality bat, let me do it at one of those 2 positions and get the big bump. Christopher Sanchez, Phil's bats, Blue Jays bats, no Bowden Francis. Even at 57, I'm not seeing it. I guess we can make the argument on a shaky pitching slate. 5 innings last time out against Texas. He pitched clean, 3-hitter, shut him out, 6 strikeouts and a walk. If you find that quality at 57, there's obviously upside. It just doesn't look pretty. I'll say he's a dart throw at that price. And it is a very generous price. He was terrific down the stretch for like 9 starts last year. He's made like 2.5 reasonably competent starts in his 11 this season. He's given up 15 home runs to 237 hitters. It's been bad. Been bad. Let's keep on moving. Brewers and the Reds. I think we got, the Reds lineup is in. Brewers still not yet. So 2 high-end pitchers with some obvious flaws, I think is fair to say here. Hunter Green, for all his strikeout success, gives up a decent amount of premium contact on an aggressive fly ball trajectory in a bandbox. That's not a great combination. He's been terrific for strikeouts. He's limited walks very well. He's got a sub-1 whip, 15.3% swinging strikes, a 2.63 ERA with a 3.24 xFIP, a monster rating by Stuff Plus, probably the highest on this slate. So there's clear upside to going to, excuse me. It's going 200 Green here, but against a hard-hitting team like the Brewers with some decent power bats in that lineup, I don't completely love it. He's in no way safe pitching in this ballpark. He's had a couple clunky ones. 5 innings, 2 earned runs, just 3 strikeouts last time out at Kansas City. That's a low strikeout opponent. 4 innings, 2 earned runs, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks with a home run allowed against the Cubs. Just went 4, faced 17 hitters. And then back on the 7th. Those were his 2 since coming back. And then back on the 7th, just went 3, 6 strikeouts. So we're checked for depth a little bit. Give up 5 back on the 19th to the struggling Orioles. Lasted just 3 innings in that one. But there's major upside for K's on the right day. And if we're stretched back out, that's probably the only reason we're projected under 30 points. 15.8 is a little higher on DraftKings. I just see a lot of threat here. 408 implied total for the Brewers. Again, it's a shaky pitching slate overall. He's got probably the best stuff on the slate and monster strikeout numbers. So you do go there, and a fantastic strikeout to walk rate. It's just like everybody. It's similar low faith to Carlos Rodon for different reasons. Freddie Peralta, 9,000, 9,300. Very, very playable. Way too many walks from Freddie this year. 8.5% barrels, just 36.2% hard hits, 88.4 miles an hour of exit velo. He's good at keeping the ball in the yard, limiting premium contact most of the time. Last year, it got up to 3.59%, but again, that came with some happenstance. Just 36.5% hard hits, 87.6 miles an hour of exit velo, 8.7% barrels. He's a fly ball pitcher. So again, in this ballpark, that's a bad collision of factors. So he could give up those happenstance home runs to a hitter like Ellie De La Cruz, somebody like Will Benson from the left side, certainly. Tyler Stevenson in the middle of the lineup. There's some power here. Matt McClain, not a slouch for power down the bottom of the lineup despite all his struggles. So again, Freddie, especially in this ballpark, also not safe. Projects out a little bit deeper than Green does, though. So I probably lean Freddie and ride with the projections, but Vegas has it the other way. 4.52 implied total for the Reds going up against Freddie. It's dicey. Not a safe spot, but nobody is. Bryce Turang at the top of the Brewers lineup at 47.29. We talked about it yesterday, still getting on base at a 349 clip. He's cooled to 271, 349, 353, but there's definitely upside as long as he's leading off ahead of these guys. And he can give you counting stats. He's hit for a little bit more pop this year, 4 home runs on the board. He's stolen 14 bases. Good for correlated scoring, just 1% above average by WRC+. But as long as we're getting on base like this, that should continue to improve. Jackson Chourio at 48.31. Similarly priced, slightly more expensive, probably on the DK scale. Their highest projected player on either slate, but he's kind of been slouching. 258, 284, 438. Capable of monster performances. 9 home runs, 11 stolen bases. There's major quality there, but a 292 xWOBA is kind of glaring. There's been some problems, mostly around the walk rate at 3.3%, in my opinion, down from 6.8 last year, while the strikeouts are almost exactly the same. Premium contact has come pretty significantly down, 6.9% barrels, 37.3% hard hits. There's definitely some flaws in the sophomore season so far for Chourio. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we finish the season with 650 plate appearances and sparkling quality. He is that kind of a player. So we could see a major turnaround. And if today's the day where that clicks into gear, you definitely want to be there in this ballpark. William Contreras, 47.31, very appealing catcher at that price. It's not great to have it that high, but he's very, very good. 40% hard hits this year is down from 49%. The barrels are cut in half from last year. He's only hit 5 home runs, stolen 5 bases. Still getting on at a 357 clip. 323 xWOBA under the cover suggests at least some improvement. 102 WRC plus remains one of their better bats. And another guy should see a bump from the ballpark. Also relatively low strikeout, especially for this team. Very playable option. Christian Yelich, 46.5% hard hits against 7.7% barrels, 13 homers, 10 steals. The counting stats are there. He's at 233, 316, 434, but a 329 xWOBA. We should see some improvement in the overall slash line. And again, never stop murdering the ball. Just as always, hit the ball hard. The strikeouts are up this year. The walks are down. That's maybe something to watch in the long term. That obviously explains the slash line to a pretty big degree. But he's still 8 points above average for run creation. Just 4,500, 3,300 against. I don't want to say gettable because Hunter Green, again, is very, very good for strikeouts. But in terms of this premium contact, and I've said in this ballpark like 11 times already, but in this ballpark, I can't not at least consider some Christian Yelich. Then you get Reese above the magic number for a home run, and Jake Bauers hiding down here at, I'm sure, low ownership for 4,000 on DraftKings. That took me by surprise. I was expecting a low price as I glanced over. That's a medium price. It's fine, but it's a little bit maybe pumped up. 2,300 on FanDuel is a low price, and that was the number I was expecting. Similar from DraftKings. He's very appealing down there, though. 18.4% barrels, 42.9 on the hard hits, over 96 plate appearances, 4 home runs, 4 steals, getting on base at a 365 clip, 207 ISO, 348 xWOBA, 131 WRC plus. What's not to like about that lefty against Hunter Green here? Sal Frelick, Caleb Durbin, Joey Ortiz, more mix and match parts. Sal Frelick is easily the best piece in there. He gets on a lot. 11 stolen bases, 296, 358, 398, creating runs 15% better than average. There's a very, very good argument to be made that Sal Frelick should be leading off instead of Bryce Turang, and Turang should be hitting in this spot. If they do that, Frelick becomes even more appealing. That said, he's a light contact hitter. He's a table setter. He's not necessarily somebody who's going to drive in any of these guys, but these guys are all base clearers. So that's not as big a problem. The bigger problem for Frelick is hitting here. If he's getting on base, who's he doing it in front of? We're getting him paired with Jake Bauers, sure, and the upside I just talked about there, but Bauers also strikes out 35% of the time. He walks a lot, but that doesn't do anything to score that Sal Frelick run, and then we're on Joey Ortiz. So there is a little bit of a limiting factor. I would much rather have Frelick here or here. You could easily have gone, and maybe they do, this is still the projected lineup, but Bauers there. Again, Frelick either here or in the leadoff spot. Move Bauers to that spot. Even if they just did that, just swap those two the way they are. And then at least have Sal a little bit closer to wraparound territory. It's just not a great spot for our purposes. Durbin and Ortiz are very skippable. You can mix and match them into a few Brewer stacks, but neither of those guys is very good. The Reds at that total, 4.5 runs. TJ Friedl off the top. We talked about him yesterday, seeing a lot of success, 387 on base, most notably, creating runs 25% better than average. Another light hitter, 2.2% barrels, 30.8% hard hits. And there's another guy who does the same things in the next spot for cheaper. So you can go back and forth between those two as you build and take whichever one of the guys fits either your positional or price needs. 34-24 for Santiago Espinal. He's found less success than Friedl this year. Similarly, light contact hitter, very low strikeout, medium walk rate. Same thing with Friedl, high walk rate from Friedl and low strikeout. But last year, the year before, he was more medium walk rate. He's just found a little bit more success on those batted balls. So far for Espinal, it's at 250, 309, 301. Last year, over 391 chances. He was at 246, 295, 356. So we've seen an uptick actually over that performance. I actually thought we had a better average. Yeah, 267, 322, 370. I guess that's what I was thinking of. 99 WRC plus. I thought he had one better average season going back in time. So we're actually getting, around the nominal numbers for Espinal. Contact-oriented hitter. So maybe we do prefer Friedl a little bit if we have the money to spend. But I also can put Espinal at second base if I'm determined to take a table setter from this team. So there's back and forth there. Ellie is an absolute priority. Masher of baseballs, 14.5% barrels, 47.3% hard hits, a dozen homers, 17 steals. Monster year so far from Ellie, and room for improvement, 349 xWOBA, but just a 109 WRC plus. It's still good, but could go higher. Gavin Lux for 36-26 is affordable, 292, 382, 399, over 204 plate appearances. Just has provided essentially nothing in terms of counting stats. Even the RBIs, the runs scored, if we're looking at those, are not all that great for a guy who hits in the middle of the lineup. But there's at least a reasonable option there for a cheap price in the outfield. He's just another outfielder overall, though. Second base, he's probably a little bit more appealing on FanDuel for 26. Stevenson, monster barrels, monster hard hits over his 100 plate appearances, resulted in 4 homers, a 193 ISO. He's always been capable of hitting for power. Last year, 9.1% barrels, 43.9% hard hits, 19 homers and 515 plate appearances. Underrated catcher bat, just 3,900. He's very affordable. It's a reasonable one-off to throw at Freddie Peralta. Freddie's not terrible for home runs, but there are a lot of barrels and fly balls that he allows. And again, in this ballpark, that could just do some damage. Willie Benson at 4,800, 5 home runs. They all came in a very big hurry, but still 19.1% barrels, 53.2% hard hits in whatever batted balls he's had over 72 plate appearances. Slashing 250, 306, 531. Off to a very good start to his year. 404 XWOB under the covers. Spencer Steer, Jake Fraley, Matt McClain. Everybody down here is kind of scuffling. I would say 2 out of those 3 guys are definitely underperforming their talent, and that's Spencer Steer and Matt McClain. Especially McClain, just 175, 269, 295, 6 homers, 11 steals. Missed all of last year, was way better than this 2 years ago. 403 plate appearances of 290, 357, 507, a 216 ISO, 16 homers, 14 steals. You can see the quality in the other 2 that season as well. Fraley was the best last year. Any one of those 3 guys in a lineup, honestly, on DraftKings in a 5-man, if you had 2 of those guys, it wouldn't be optimal, but I would consider it non-tragic. It's okay if it helps you buy something else. But everybody in this team outside of Ellie is pretty affordable, or outside of Ellie and TJ Friedl is pretty affordable. Ah, man, this is a tough one. This is easily a 4 corners. I'm gonna say I'm gonna go with the projections. Freddie Peralta, Hunter Green. I'll go pitching. Even though I said I wanted it. I did say that, didn't I? It doesn't matter ultimately. Everything is essentially tied. I'll stick with what I was just saying. I'm gonna change my mind and lean pitching here just because of the nature of the pitching slate and say Freddie, Hunter Green, Reds bats, Brewers bats. So a complete reversal of what I said earlier. But it's all very close. This is one. Sorry for this take. This is one that could go any which way. This is what I mean when I say it's a messy slate. Angels and Red Sox bats are both in. Much more direct line. I have the Angels already. Much more direct line on this game. Man, I don't like how that ended. Did we get confirmed for either of these? Can we get a tie break there? The Reds did come in. It's different. Okay, Gavin Lux hitting second. That's kind of interesting. Still no Brewers. Sorry to go back to this. That's your confirmed version of the lineup. So you get Steer climbing the lineup a little bit, most notably Gavin Lux into the 2 spot, I think is very interesting. And that one becomes probably would rather have Gavin Lux than TJ Friedl given the price difference. 2 very similar guys. Again, it's no different than it was with Espinal, and Lux has been striking out more while drawing equal walks. So you do have that offset between him and Espinal, but between the 2, he is the better hitter, and left-handed to boot. So given the discount, I'll take a little bit of Lux there. He can hit the ball harder than TJ Friedl, and we're cheaper, and we can plunk him, especially on FanDuel at second base. That makes the Reds a little bit more appealing. But I was going to go back to this and actually flip it again and go back the other way. So I will keep the Reds on top of the Brewers now. I'll say Reds, then Brewers, then Freddie, then Hunter Green, if that makes any sense, which it doesn't. But that's kind of how it's landing in my brain. I do think there's more upside here for an extended start than what you get out of Hunter Green. Did throw 83, then 88 pitches in those 2 returns. So again, and it was only a 2-week absence. So it's not like we're crazy limited on Green. 6 innings is easily in play. Oh, good. Michael Garcia in the lineup. I left him in the Dynasty Weekly lineup. Anyway, let's get off this game. But I wanted to flip that again and put the bats back on top just because of that. Again, it's very much to do with that ballpark. I do like both of those pitchers. Angels on the table. Very significant projections up at the top of the lineup. Not some bad projections on like a guy like Travis d'Arnaud, who I think is a very good sleeper target at 2,600 at catcher on DraftKings. d'Arnaud has always been a good power bat. Right now, over 88 plate appearances has been miserable. 195, 250, 305, just one home run and a 110 ISO. But that in no way reflects the 13% barrels in his batted ball events, nor does it reflect the quality that we've seen from him in the last couple of years. 15 homers in 336 chances last year with a 202 ISO. Year before, 11 in 292 with a 172. Year before that, 18 in 426 chances as a more regular player. Love d'Arnaud here. That is a very cheap price. You're going up against Brian Bayo, and that's the one limiting factor for the Angels today. He cuts into their power numbers a little bit, so that does have an impact on a guy like d'Arnaud. He keeps the ball down somewhat effectively, 5.4 degree average launch this season. You could still hit homers against him, though, and Fenway plays up offense for sure. 2.78% home runs allowed so far this year, pitching to a 3.83 xFIP, but a 3.83 ERA, but a 4.47 xFIP. A 1.63 whip is very notable. 16.1% Ks against 12.2% walks. None of this is sustainable. Brian Bayo has been downright bad this year. So he is very targetable here. He's also a capable middle of the road type pitcher. Going back over time, 4+ in the ERA department each of the last two seasons, 3.87 xFIP snuck under the wire there. Mediocre for strikeouts, but higher than he's been so far this year and more close to the league average. Has always been bumpy for walks, but 2 years ago it was just 6.7. Had a 1.34 whip still that year. Last year it climbed to 9.1 in 30 starts. Didn't give you a lot of depth. 30 starts, only 162 in a third innings. Efficiency becomes a big gotcha for this pitcher. Again, last year, 2.71% home runs despite limiting the launch. Year before, 3.59 despite a 4.9 degree average launch. So again, you can, why do I keep saying again? You can very easily hit home runs against. You can hit home runs against Brian Bayo. The very easily part of that was incorrect. Zach Neto at 5,200, 3,500 is appealing at the top of the Angels lineup. 10 home runs on the board, 8 steals, 244 ISO. He's been mashing 15.8% barrels, 47.4% hard hits. Shanuel's their on-base option table setter. I continue to think they should maybe consider flip-flopping those two. We get Mike Trout up to the 3 spot at 5,000, 3,300. Hit a homer last night for his 10th. 508 slug, a 283 ISO, a 396 xWOBA under his 135 plate appearances, 15.5% barrels. It's Mike Trout. I think you take him at these prices because he's going to go up. And 34 for 20 and 28 for Shanuel. If you're just mixing him in between those and looking at it as like a 3-man, brings it down to 4,600 a man. It's obviously an expensive price to pay for Shanuel, but not for Mike Trout, not for Zach Neto. 3,200 a piece on FanDuel. Trout is downright cheap on FanDuel at 33. Taylor Ward, just 4,300 for a guy with 16 home runs so far this year. I get part of it. 218, 271 is not appealing on the front end of the slash line, but he's got a 336 xWOBA that tells us those should go up, especially given the nature of the contact that he makes. Should find some more success along the way. And even if we're just home run hunting, it is a player against which he could hit a home run. Jorge Soler's gotten cheap. 35, 3,000. 8 home runs on the board. As mentioned the other day, given the career history, given that the contact is down but not crazy far off, I think we get a surge at some point from Soler. I really do, and I want to be early to the party if that happens. He's still priced up a little bit at 3,000 on FanDuel. That easily could have slipped them below 3,000. 35 on DraftKings is getting downright cheap. Renifo at 26-24, mix and match player at the absolute best. He was good last year, provided some counting stats and some correlated scoring. This year, not so much. 42 WRC plus over 198 plate appearances. Joe Adell, on the other hand, 9 home runs now. Hit, 2 yesterday? Was it 1 or 2 yesterday? I forget. 215 ISO. He's been crushing the ball. 13.2% barrels, 46.5% hard hits. He's doing what they pay him to do. He's never going to be good for average. He's not going to be a reliable on-base guy. He'll steal the occasional bag when he does get on. He is on this earth to hit home runs, and he's been doing it. Chris Taylor at the dead min price. He was shot last year. He's pretty much shot this year, over 46 plate appearances so far. Outside of just a mix and match guy to lower the average price in your lineup, I see no real appeal to Chris Taylor until further notice. Striking out at a 41.3% clip to boot. Kikuchi, 20.4% strikeouts, 12.3% walks. At least the strikeouts are better than Brian Bayo. He's pitched to a 3.06 ERA, but has a 4.66 xFIP. He's got a 1.52 whip, especially given all those walks. That's very problematic. 9% swinging strikes and 26% CSW is down. We've highlighted this a number of times already this year. Hard hits is manageable. Exit velo is right on the line for problems. He's a fly ball pitcher who gives up too much premium contact. He's actually limited home runs this year successfully. If he was having his typical home run issues, last year it was 3.40 on more premium contact. The year before, 3.86 on more premium contact. The year before that, 5.07 on even more premium contact. If those things were coming true, this would be a disaster, and he would look probably worse than that xFIP. He's gotten lucky to have pitched to what he's done, but he also has more talent than what we've seen this year. It's a really weird mix of factors. I think at 6,700 on DraftKings, that's a really playable spot, and you're just crossing your fingers, praying to whatever God or physical force or whatever you might believe in, and hoping for the best, because it's a very cheap price. On FanDuel at 84, I don't think we need it on a slate where a lot of guys in the same price range look exactly the same and there are better upside spots. At best, it's a high danger gamble on FanDuel. DraftKings, there's reason to do it given that cheap price and what the true nature of the pitcher is, including the strikeout upside. This is a Red Sox lineup, the confirmed version, that has a 24.3% strikeout rate on the season. They've loaded up with righties again. We talked yesterday about Jarren Duran's struggles this year and overall against lefties. That does have an impact here. Rafi Devers, we don't worry about that. Rob Refsnyder's tremendous against lefties, but overall, he's a replacement level player. Romy Gonzalez puts great bat on ball, 11.1% barrels, 60% hard hits, finds monster success against lefties as well. Part-time player. Abraham Toro struggles against lefties. Also a part-time player. 62 pretty good plate appearances out of him. 63 pretty good plate appearances out of Romy. 66 pretty good plate appearances out of Refsnyder. You absolutely can and should play those guys if you're using Red Sox bats against Kikuchi here, and they should be in your portfolio somewhere. 4.83 implied total feels about right, but what it might be, unless they really come through in exploiting the walks that Kikuchi always issues, what it might be is just another day where that 4.83 really means 4.83. It really means we're getting between 3.5 and like 6 runs and not a slate breaker. Maybe a slate breaker in terms of 1 or 2 guys that you want in 1 or 2 spots. So maybe it's more one-off friendly. Maybe it's more small stack friendly. Duran overall kind of slouching. 271, 317, 417 after his tremendous year last year. A lot of barrels, a lot of hard hits still. Barrels are down slightly. Hard hits are up slightly. Strikeouts and walk basically in line. But again, struggles against lefties. Rafi Devers has been just back to his old self and mashing for the better part of the last month and a half. So nothing to worry about with him, even lefty-lefty. He's still honestly a little inexpensive. 51 versus 42 site to site. It's a discount on DraftKings. Expensive on FanDuel, but worth it. Refsnyder, I have a problem paying $4,000 for. I honestly have a problem paying $3,000 for on FanDuel, but I get it. He's very successful against lefties. There are a lot of Ks there for Kikuchi to chase, though. 25-4 last year, 30% this year. Romy, his strikeouts are down somewhat. 26.9 is an aggressively high strikeout rate last year. Again, a guy Kikuchi might be able to get. Toro doesn't really strike out, but he doesn't put good bat on ball and struggles against lefties. Trevor Story puts excellent bat on ball, but strikes out a lot and doesn't really draw walks. This is not an ideal Red Sox team in terms of the walk rates to throw at Kikuchi. If they're flailing a little bit, he might find strikeout upside and might not hit the walk maximum of 5 or 6. Maybe we get a more manageable 2 or 3. Last 3 starts for Kikuchi, 5 walks, 4 walks, and 4 walks. Despite those, he allowed 2 earned runs in those 3 starts to the Dodgers. One was the Marlins and the Yankees. He's capable of breaking off good starts. This is such a problematic back and forth. But I would probably, in the grand scheme of things, lean Red Sox bats outside of just the discount that you get of Kikuchi on DraftKings as an SP2. Ceddanne Rafaela is at best a mix and match guy. He's been scuffling this year. 4 home runs, 7 steals. We're getting similar counting stat upside, but that's about it outside of some barrels and some hard hits from this hitter. 336 xWOBA is something to keep an eye on, though. There is underlying quality here. We just have not been able to really extract it. Connor Wong, Christian Campbell, at best mix and match options. Wong had a decent season for power last year, has been ugly over 61 plate appearances, but 4 guys in this lineup, just 60 plate appearances apiece. Red Sox bets. Angels bets. Yusei Kikuchi on DraftKings. And Brian Bayo's a dart. He doesn't project poorly, but I don't like it. I would much rather be on the Angels side of that. Yep, Anthony Foley nails it. Kikuchi scares me here, but can be optimal. That's exactly right. BBL Slayer, I'm sorry I had that problem. I've never found Eric to be a liar, but yeah, maybe a misunderstanding there, or I don't know what happened. But I'm glad you found your way to us and hang out. And definitely, don't use any of those words here, otherwise the same thing will happen. But I believe your accounting of that story for sure. Don't know why I wouldn't. No, there was no slander, Fistula. I, in fact, said that they were very good. Eight games here. Pink hand wave to you too, buddy. Zach Gallen, yet another pitcher not to trust. 5.54 ERA, but a 4.31 xFIP, 22.6% strikeouts, 11% walks, a 1.40 whip. We know that Zach Gallen has more quality than this, but he's always been a roller coaster of a pitcher. He's never been a guy who's, giving you sparkling numbers over time. 3.65 ERA and a 3.62 xFIP was good last year, not great. 25.1% strikeouts, but against 8.7% walks with a high whip. Medium as far as the swinging strikes, the CSW. A lot of premium contact didn't really burn him for home runs. Same thing the year before. Pitched to a 3.47 ERA, 3.49 xFIP with more strikeouts, fewer walks that year. This was his best season. But it's been a little bit of a struggle. And especially this season, over 12 starts, 66 and 2/3, has not been good. Definitely some targeting, some ability to target him here. Last time out, just 3 strikeouts, gave up 5 earned. Time before that, 4 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, 4 walks. Start before that, 6 earned runs. Allowed 4 home runs to the Colorado Rockies. 8 hits, 6 earned runs, 4 home runs, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks in that game. 5 2/3 against the Dodgers prior to that. 4 earned runs on 10 hits, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. It has been messy over the last 4. He had 2 good outings before that. 13 innings of 2-run ball, both starts against the Mets. Had a bumpy 6-run day against the Cubs back in mid-April. 5-run game against the Orioles, over 4 2/3. 4-run game to start his season, also against the Cubs. There's some good in here. 6 2/3 against the Yankees in his second start of the season. Struck out 13, 3-hitter, no runs. But we're dramatically outweighed by the bad. And this is a good Braves lineup with a lot of power. They're drawing mid-board power against because, again, despite allowing a lot of premium contact, he finds his way through. He manages to get by without allowing too many homers. So it has a little bit of an impact. Even with the struggles of the last 2 starts, no home runs allowed. The 4 home run game is obviously the downside, but the 2 starts before that, 1 good, 1 bad, no home runs allowed. So he's gettable for power, and especially with bats like Acuna, like Ozuna, Olsen, Riley, even Drake Baldwin. It's definitely power upside, but nobody above the magic number is something to note with this Brave squad. We get these guys above 10 against a lot of pitchers in this league. So that does reflect a little bit of Gallen's historic quality. Spencer Strider at 85.92 is very cheap on DraftKings. We've only had him 3 times so far this year. 25% strikeouts, but 10% walks has been bumpy. 4.5 ERA with a 4.82 xFIP, inducing a nice 12.2% swinging strike rate that we could easily point to say, hey, quality's still going to be there. That was much higher in his previous seasons, though. 16.9 in his 2 starts last year, 18.9 in a full season of 32 starts with a 36.8% strikeout rate 2 years ago, and 131 2/3, 20 starts, 15.5 with a 38.3% strikeout rate. He is the best strikeout pitcher in baseball right now when healthy, but we missed most of last season. We've had some bumps along the way in his return to the mound, including an IL stint already. Threw 97 pitches in his first outing of the year on April 16th, hit the IL, came back 2 starts ago on the 20th, threw 75 pitches, 4 1/3 against the Nats, 3 strikeouts and a walk, allowed a home run, 4 earned runs on 6 hits. Last time out against the Phillies, 7 Ks in just 4 2/3, struck out 7 of 20 Phillies, walked 4, just 1 earned run and 1 hit allowed. There's some good, there's some bad in there. That's a 1.93 ERA for the game and a 4.83 xFIP. Against the spectacularly good Diamondbacks offense that is low strikeout, high walk, I do lean Strider like slightly in the real baseball sense, but I think for DFS, there are some limiting factors here. Now, we get him very cheap at 85 on DraftKings, so that erases a lot of the concern about the quality of the Diamondbacks lineup, and the pitch count's probably going to be there. So I think we're all right at that price. It's a major discount. But know that it's not safe. The Diamondback, even Vegas at a 4.15, that was not necessarily reflective of facing peak Spencer Strider. And 92 on FanDuel, it's basically the same story because he compares out against the top of the board. So you're getting a discount from the Carlos Rodons of the world. But it's not as big a discount on the FanDuel slate. And it's a very problematic opponent. 18.6% strikeouts with 9.2 on the walks, 18.4, 9.2 last year, 19.6, 9.2. Look at that consistent walk rate for this team. 9.2% exactly each of the last 2.5 seasons. 2 1/3 seasons. So good with monster ceiling. 100 pitches is clearly in play given the 90 that we saw last time out. So a fully unleashed Spencer Strider here versus a very good Diamondbacks lineup. That is a collision of factors, but I will give Strider the slight edge while saying that you should probably, if you're getting aggressive about Strider, have a fair complement of Diamondbacks hedge stacks. It's not a 1-to-1, but like maybe a 3-to-1 if you're, again, taking a big chunk of Strider, which is maybe worth it on DraftKings. Going up against him, Corbin Carroll, striking out 24.8% of the time and a 7.9% walk rate. But last 2 seasons, that was 19% strikeouts, 10+% walks last year, 8.8 the year before. So we've dipped a little bit for strikeouts and walks. 16 home runs, 10 steals. Those things haven't changed at all. 44 runs scored. If you just want a stupid stat, that does count for DFS. So you do, from time to time can note some of those things. There are a lot of good run creators on this team. Look at those WRC plus marks. So Carroll's a very major part of that as their star. 6,000, 4,000, easily worth it, but maybe not against Spencer Strider. It's challenging to say that anybody's worth those prices against one of the very best pitchers in baseball. But he's probably also not going to be owned like Corbin Carroll might typically land. Some good, there's some bad. It's going to be the case for every single game. 54-37 for Ketel Marte. Same deal. Again, he's spectacular, but against Spencer Strider, there's obviously limitations. 14.1% barrels, 50.5% hard hits. He's striking out just 12.2 with a 13.7% walk rate. And look at the next few hitters. 11.2 and 11.8 for strikeouts for Geraldo Perdomo and Josh Naylor. 13.5% walks, 8.1% walks, all their quality. Love both those options. Then you get Eugenio Suarez with all his power. He's hit 16 homers. He's slashing 231, 311, 509. He's been all right, competent in the slash line. 370 xWOBA tells us we could improve those with a little bit of luck on his batted ball events that don't get out of the stadium. But he's been very good for the pricing at 47.34. He's underpriced. Really is. Even against Spencer Strider, that's underpriced. Lourdes Gurriel at 37.29, playable. 251, 291, 436. More appealing if you're going to Diamondbacks. Not a reason to get there, but he's another low strikeout, 13% this year, 18.3 last year, 17.4 the year before. Medium walk, so you're just buying some bat on ball. High quality option. Pavin Smith, a lot of barrels. Getting on base at a 397 clip, 341 xWOBA under the covers. Hasn't hit for a ton of power despite the aggressively good barrel rate, the very good hard hit rate at 45.7, just 4 homers, but a 182 ISO. Plenty of run creation at 145 WRC plus. Alec Thomas, mix and match player at the bottom of the lineup. I think our real appeal here, though, is the Braves bats. 495 implied total. Ronnie Acuna at the top of the lineup, fully priced on DraftKings at 62. FanDuel still got him a little bit light at 38. That's a slight discount. Over 38 plate appearances, we've already seen 3 home runs. He's at 324, 395, 647 with a 324 ISO, a 411 xWOBA, 22.7% barrel rate. Hasn't stolen a base yet, if you want to point to anything, but who cares? Monster start to the season for Acuna, and looking like Ronald Acuna. Could easily be above 10 in the home run model ahead. Gallen just happened to give up a couple more along the way. Based on the contact, it's clear to see 8.59 is good number. 677 for Drake Baldwin, somewhat reflective of the contact he's been making, but also some Zach Gallen in there. Baldwin, 5 home runs on the season, over 114 plate appearances, slashing 321, 368, 500. This team just gets production from catchers like crazy. Marcell Ozuna at 42-31, 10 home runs on the season. The average has dipped a little bit, but the on base is aggressively high at 427. That's absurd. 189 ISO, a 402 xWOBA, creating runs 55% better than average. Monster power and a very good table setter. Love Ozuna for DFS. He's 4,200 on DraftKings. It's too cheap. It is just too cheap. I don't understand it. It's that cheap. It's one of those objectionable, offensive prices. The guy's getting on base nearly 43% of the time. He's mashing the ball when he makes contact with it. In a full season last year, he went 304, 381, 552. So it's not like this is out of nowhere. He hit 39 home runs. We're maybe a little under the pace there. The ISO has come down for sure, but it's not crazy far off the contact. 53.2% hard hits down to 51.4. 11.6% barrels is down several points from the 15.6 last year, but it's still very good in a vacuum barrel rate. 40 home runs the year before with very similar numbers. Year before that was a mess. That was where we thought we lost him, and then came roaring back each of the last 2 seasons. He's been a superstar for the last 2 years. How did we arrive at 4,200? That is bananas. Matty Olson, 51, 18% barrels, 56.5% hard hits, just 3,000 on FanDuel. Love that option against the righty who gives up a ton of premium contact. 12 homers on the season for Olson, 220 ISO, doing Matt Olson things, getting on at a 333 clip, 389 xWOBA. Just look at these xWOBA numbers. When we talk about how the Braves are going to surge now that Acuna is back, that is a big, big part of it. That's a 385 average xWOBA. We take Acuna's number out of there. We only use the guys who have been here, 379. If we're just talking about the 3 stars who have maybe underperformed while Acuna's been out, that's a 379. These are good bats. 10 home runs on the board for Austin Riley, 15.8% barrels, 51.5% hard hits. Love the upside for the top 5 in the Braves lineup today. And then you get underperforming quality from Ozzie Albies, Michael Harris. Those are 2 players who have been very, very good at this level, who struggled last year, who have continued to struggle this year. There are definite downturns. Ozzie Albies not making the contact that he used to. Limiting strikeouts and walking a little bit more is saving his life so far, but he's only come in at an 84 WRC+. It's an underwhelming 303 xWOBA. There's not a lot to hang on to here, like life raft-wise. Like, we're slapping our hands on the top of the water and the donut thing is over there and our head is below water here with Ozzie. But there's a chance that we get that boost back up and take a big, nice breath of air, at least for a little while. So that is a playable second baseman still, in my opinion. Verdugo I've never liked. He'll hit for average a little bit. He'll get on base, create some runs, but 83 WRC plus is not good. 44.4% hard hits, but that's way up from the last 2 seasons in a medium sample so far. Limited option. Nick Allen is just here for defense. Michael Harris, though, 6% barrels, nearly 40% hard hits. We've got a little bit more to cling to with him, I think, than Ozzie, but not much. 3 homers, 10 steals. 234, 263, 338, a 311 xWOBA, 62 WRC plus. That is nowhere near his talent level. Might want to send those 2 to Max Muncy's optometrist. This game goes. Not a challenging one. Jeez. Braves bats. Spencer Strider. Diamondbacks bats. Zach Gallen. All 4 things are playable. 4 corners game for sure. What's up, Gun? Gun, what do you think of the Brewers and Cards game? I was really struggling with that one. $8 game with a big bet. Am I the only one in this chat that placed money on the Diamondbacks to win the World Series? I think you, assuming you did do that, I think you maybe have some concerns about that pitching staff right now. I think that's another Cards gun, the Brewers and Reds. This one. I also do think that the Cards run total was a little bit surprising, though. I mentioned that in the run-up. 494. That's really high for that offense. But yeah, this game in particular, I really bumped my head on because I'm getting good pitching projections, but I think both those guys are gettable enough for both of these pretty quality lineups. We've got playable totals, hitter-friendly park. Messy. Let's get into this Rangers and Rays game while we wait for Gunn to formulate his response in the chat. Hit the like button for a Gundacker guest appearance in the chat. Subscribe to the channel if you get a chance. Trying our damnedest, or at least mentioning it during shows and doing very little else about it, to get it up to 1,000 subscribers. If you go home to your parents' house anytime soon, go on their computer, subscribe to the channel. Don't tell anybody. Just subscribe them. Who cares? It's not going to cost anybody anything. Helps out tremendously and would be appreciated. Check out rotoscouts.com for all your projections need for all 4 major sports under $1 a day. And check out Gundacker's site. He'll mention the link in the chat. Molly Rasmussen, another just playable pitching spot. I don't love Molly at 87,900 pitching in Tampa in this ballpark, this hitter-friendly ballpark that they've created down here. It's not ideal. He's been decent, 1.64 ERA, but a 4.24 xFIP, 18.5% strikeouts and an ugly 9.3% walk, but managing somehow a 105 whip. That tells us that we're getting some high-quality batting average on balls in play out of Mr. Molly here. 232 so far. So he's gotten a little bit lucky around the edges. 7% barrels, medium contact rates. Not bad. Only giving up limited home runs, 0.77 in 12 starts, 66 innings. Obviously, has been good as far as limiting power. That was a 2-home run day against the Red Sox at Fenway on May 7th. Otherwise, he hasn't given up any home runs in any of his other starts. But this could be a day that changes that. For one, we've got some very good power here. All of those guys. We've got some aggressively good left-handed power to throw at him. It could be a high danger spot. 4.34 implied total for the Rays. Think you can play Molly. Think you can, maybe chase some strikeouts around some of these guys. But you also have some guys that clip this average down, like Jake Mangum, we've talked about a few times, 29-year-old quad A player who's mostly here because he plays better defense, I guess, than Chandler Simpson, even though Chandler Simpson is a more dynamic, more interesting player who deserves to be at the major league level. While Jake Mangum has proved he's not a major league player, he only strikes out at a 10.7% clip so far this year over 84 plate appearances, so it helps the average come down. You can see some high numbers in that column as well. Junior Caminero has been terrific at just 19.4% strikeouts, but needs to push the walk rate back up into the 6% range to help get the on base up where it needs to be. But he's hit for monster power, 13 homers and 11% barrel rate, 50.3% hard hits. You get 11 and 54.8 out of Jonathan Aranda, who's been fantastic from the left side. 7 home runs, slashing 320, 406, 509 with a 387 xWOBA, leading the team at 166 WRC plus. He's been a monster. Yandy Diaz at just 37.29. He's struggled. 237, 281, 397. We've talked about this a bunch. The contact is better. It's more reminiscent of 2 years ago. He's not striking out. He's gotten better in the strikeout department. He's drawn fewer walks, and that's hurt the on base. This is a guy who's been spectacularly good over the last 2 seasons. Grid runs 20% better than average last year while getting on at a 341 clip. Year before, when he was making contact similar to what we're seeing right now, he slashed 330, 410, 522 over 600 plate appearances, hit 22 homers, had a 192 ISO and a 164 WRC plus. And now, while he's making that same kind of contact, what is the difference between 9.4 and 9.5, 53.6 and 54? It's a rounding error. So, dramatically unlucky here so far. Monster upside when we can get him for 37.29. The one issue on DraftKings, positional conflict with Aranda. That absolutely sucks. First base for both on FanDuel doesn't matter as much, but it does create a little bit of an artificial limitation with the flexibility of your lineup. Brendan Lau for just 2,800 on FanDuel. DraftKings got that one right. 4,800 over there. 11.5% barrels, 45.3% hard hits. He's hit 11 home runs. He's carrying a 188 ISO that could certainly be higher on that kind of contact. The 347 XWOBA will tell you that. 242, 295, 430. The 347 XWOBA also tells you that he's been unlucky in that department, and we'll see those numbers climb. 108 WRC plus in spite of any of the flaws, and hits for major power and always has. 8.56 in the home run model today. Love the upside. And then Josh Lowe in the top spot. He's expensive for being Josh Lowe at 52 on DraftKings. 33 on FanDuel is a little bit more correct. 3 home runs, 2 steals, over 65 plate appearances, though. He's been very good. He's hit the ball extremely hard. 322, 385, 525 on top of that. It's a good player. Don't mind Ray's bats here at all, but Tyler Mahle also in play against them, given some of the strikeouts. Going the other way, Rasmussen. Pretty good strikeout to walk at 21.6 to 5.9. Not a high strikeout rate in a vacuum and a low-end swinging strike rate, low-end CSW. So not super appealing there. But against that walk rate, it balances nicely. 2.33 ERA and a believable 3.54 xFIP. Just 5.7% barrels and just 8.2 degree average launch means maybe a better shot at keeping the ball in the yard. Not that Mahle's aggressively bad on the launch angle. 12.8 this year, 7% barrels allowed, and again, has not allowed many home runs. But that launch angle was more home run trajectory each of the last couple seasons. 2 years ago, small sample, 25 2/3 was giving up a few home runs there. Last year that was just 12 2/3. We got to go all the way back in time. Back in 22, 3+% home run rate came on a 17.9 degree average launch. So maybe that's just improved for him a little bit. But I think it's definitely some believable home run downside when things normalize. With Rasmussen, so like I was saying, we'd care less, again, also about the hard hits, the exit velo here. 2.70% home run rates. Much like Bayo, he is, somewhat gettable still, despite keeping the ball down. But a very good mark by Stuff Plus, 111.5, one of the better marks on this slate. So if we're just paying fair prices for quality stuff against an opponent that has been dramatically underperforming their talent again this year, it's a reasonable spot. The biggest thing working against them, I think, is the ballpark. But the Rangers coming in at a sub-4 total. 7,700 is a very good price on the DraftKings slate. 88, I'm warming up to on FanDuel a little bit. Not a major spot for strikeouts. The Rangers come in at 20.3% this year. That's with Seager up, with Langford up a little bit. Seager up slightly in a small sample. I do think you could consider some Rangers bats. They're not showing a ton of power, obviously, with his ability to cut launch, but this ballpark can help the power upside. Wouldn't shock me if they hit a homer here. What you might not get is the multi-home run day, the very, very good day, because this team is not great for sequencing. We've improved in the WRC plus up at the top of the lineup, but we've got some real ugly spots down the bottom. The overall on base for this team is 316. The overall xWOBA, 346. That's encouraging. That does include a 442. Let me take that out over 21 plate appearances. 334, still encouraging. Again, there is still a lot of quality under the surface here. Even the guys who are struggling have hit the ball very hard. We still don't have Adolis Garcia in this lineup. That is problematic. They gave him the entire weekend off, and he's continuing to sit amidst his struggles. They announced that it was just a few days off to get him right in the head. But it's a growing concern that they might just be flat out benching him for those of us who left him in their dynasty lineup this week. Not happy about that. 2,800 for Josh Smith at every position on FanDuel. He's incredibly playable. He's also not great. 269, 340, 409, creating runs 13% better than average. Decent xWOBA under the covers, supports them, sustaining around this level, which is right around expectation for Josh Smith. 5.8% barrels, 36% hard hits. Relatively low strikeout, medium walk. He's fine and, again, flexible on FanDuel, but not overly appealing. Wyatt Langford is a much more high-quality player. 11 home runs, 11 steals this year, a 215 ISO, a 365 xWOBA, and mashing when he makes contact. 25% strikeouts, but 11% walks. We're getting some good, we're getting some bad in there, and there's way more upside than the bad would indicate. Corey Seager at 15.2% barrels, 52% hard hits with 6 home runs in just 123 plate appearances. Looking very much the part of Corey Seager. Could easily go deep from the left side here. Again, this ballpark is the configuration of Yankee Stadium, so keep that in mind for lefties, and it plays up power in a big, big way. Josh Young at 38-31, 7 home runs on the board this season, a 337 xWOBA, and more to give. 200 plate appearances. He's been fine, but 2 years ago, I think he was a little bit better. 201 ISO, hit the ball a little bit harder, 23 home runs and 515 chances. Alejandro Osuna, just cheap. We did this the other day. In 2024, last season, in 461 plate appearances, split between high A and double A, 18 home runs, 17 stolen bases, a 216 ISO, 292, 362, 507 with a 143 WRC plus. In 143 so far this year, had only hit 2 home runs. That was primarily at double A. Stole 9 bases, was still slashing 279, 386, 416 with a 124 WRC plus. 38 plate appearances came at AAA and scuffled a little bit more there, 259, but got on base like crazy at 474, had a 185 ISO, so he hit the ball fairly hard, saw some decent results, but incredibly small sample. So far in the show, 267, 476, 267 sounds kind of in line with those numbers, 442 extra. Yeah, wow, that is very much in line with those AAA numbers. I had to go back and make sure I wasn't reading the major league numbers. So Osuna, at those cheap prices, given what the nature of the talent looks like, very playable if you're going to the Rangers. Helps average down the pricing for an already inexpensive lineup with talent in it. Marcus Semien, we're up to 8.2% barrels. Maybe we're getting a little bit interested, maybe a little bit of blips. We're up above the Mendoza line, 201, 291, 270. The xWOBA at 325, maybe again, some signs of life, little bit of encouragement there. Strikeouts are still up at 20.9%, but he is walking a decent amount. Maybe he's not completely dead. Maybe he's just undead. Maybe he's just risen from the grave, a little bit zombified, but playable because he's really cheap at 29, 28. We know what the upside used to look like. If you're drawn down against Drew Rasmussen for ballpark reasons, for low ownership reasons, for cheap pricing reasons, I would not necessarily skip Marcus Semien. Is he in my top first stack of Rangers? Maybe. 1, 2 for sure. Actually, 1, 2, 3 for sure. I can take Marcus Semien at second base instead of Josh Smith at shortstop. And then I probably would just do that for the cheap price. But you do have Jake Berger down here at 33, which is an appealing power bat. Evan Carter at just 4,000 is another appealing bat in the outfield. Even Higgy at 25. There are options to build with here. This is a more interesting team than it looks like. So let's say we did that with that. And if we use Berger, it's 3,900 a piece for essentially all their name brands, struggles or not. If you did this with Osuna, you get it down to 3,680, so 37. If you go just top line there from Smith and you use Semien, 4,080, so 41. That's your most expensive way to do it. Evan Carter over just 37 plate appearances, 11% barrels. He hit a homer. He stole 3 bases. In a cup of coffee last year, he kind of struggled, but in a cup of coffee the year before that, he was very good. 306, 413, 645, 5 home runs, 3 steals. Good pedigree coming up. Kid's supposed to be a hitter. 4,000, 2,500. Helps with the pricing. Berger at just 33 at 28 on FanDuel has a 5.34 in the home run model. He's hit 7 this year. He's got a 181 ISO, but the 15.2% barrels, the 52% hard hits kind of defy both the home run total and the ISO. Just a 323 xWOBA. He does not get on base very efficiently. 2.8% walks this year against 26.5% strikeouts. So he's not a 3 true outcomes hitter. He's just a very flawed power hitter, but he has major, major power. In this ballpark, that plays up. So it's not a bad day to consider some Jake Berger shares. Reasonable one-off, honestly. If you're not using Drew Rasmussen and you're just home run hunting, it's not crazy to consider some Jake Berger. 29 home runs last year, 34 the year before that. It's a very realistic source of power. In his last, where was the gap? Yeah, there it is. 4 home runs since returning from the minors, 239 ISO. Still slashing just 239, 260, 479, but mashing the ball, 104 WRC plus, so that's positive. He's been a little bit better. Just 21.9% strikeouts too. That's a nice improvement, but just 2.7% walks to go with that. Very, very playable bat. And then you get Higgy. All the barrels in the world the last couple of seasons. Spiked to 17 home runs last year. 8.3% barrels and just 1 so far this year. But if you're just looking for a cheap catcher bat, he's on the board. I would probably, especially since he hits 9th, consider him more a cheap add-on as a 5th man in stacks. It's a questionable one-off because you're only going to get limited plate appearances down there. It's not great for a one-off, but he is very cheap. He's usable in that regard. Another tight one. Man. I'm going to say I'm going to lean a little bit bats on the Rays side. I think I'm going Rays bats. Tyler Mahle, as much sense as that makes. Drew Rasmussen, then Rangers bats. Kind of follow the numbers here. But all 4 things are kind of a mishmash. Going back to that Brewers Reds game, saying I'm scumdacker on that one, taking all pieces of it. Ownerships are flat for offenses today past Twins, so I can leverage all 4 corners. Yep. It's kind of how I'm feeling. Not feel like I'm giving up much. Anthony Folio wants Lorenzen out of the rotation and keep Cameron in. Cameron's been giving innings, man. He's been good. Michael Nack asks a good question that I forgot to address. Weather concerns. Yeah, there's some weather on the board. It's going to be rainy in the Tampa Bay area, but it's a lot of passing showers in Florida typically, so they can find windows and pockets of time. It does look like a more dicey one than we've seen down there so far, though. So maybe something to keep an eye on with that game we just talked about. The Detroit at Chicago game, which we're talking about right now, Roth has as yellow. Windy day blowing across the field and some rain in the area. He's saying more a chance for delay, though, than a postponement. Storms in the Kansas City area, but should be fine. And then the game in Sacramento is warm with the wind blowing out again. So same conditions as yesterday for that Twins-A's game. We'll get there. 484 implied total for the Tigers. The one thing that they're not showing a ton of is power today. Just 4.87 for torque to really drive that point home below halfway to the magic number. Shane Smith, the reason for that, Shane Smith, while he's a medium strength pitcher, maybe one of their better arms, but medium quality overall, has been good at limiting power. 1.65% home runs. They've come on just 5.7% barrels. A 12.4 degree average launch is fly ball trajectory. There are hard hits there, and we're just under the line for exit velo. So that could be higher, but he's managed to miss barrels and keep the launch just to the right trajectory when those hard hits happen. And that seems to be an attribute for him. I went back when I saw the Tigers numbers and I looked at no stop in the minor leagues. Did he have anything higher than a 0.86 home run per 9? Home run per 9, any per 9 stat is not my favorite way to do things, but he was good at limiting power in the minors as well. 6 home runs allowed to 354 AA hitters back in 2024. 13 home runs allowed to 232 hitters across from A ball to AA the year before that. Spun up through the minors in a hurry. It's 25. He's pitched to a 22.3% strikeout, but 9.5% walks. 2.68 ERA, kind of belied by a 4.17 xFIP. He's been all right. He does have good swing and miss stuff, 12.2% swinging, but just a 27% CSW overall. There's some good, there's some bad. I don't think Shane Smith is entirely unplayable against the Tigers and their high strikeout nature. Given the ability to suppress power, the ability to find swinging strikes against the team with it. Can you see my fingers? I don't know if I was holding them on camera or not. Against the team with a 23.2% strikeout rate for this projected lineup. And I will grab nope. We got the White Sox, not the Tigers. 23-2 this year, 25-2 last year. Lot of lurking power, but if he comes through with his ability to keep the home run off the board, or even if he just gives up one and he finds some whiffs along the way, it could be an okay day at 75 on DraftKings. 81 on FanDuel, I get a little skeptical about. The single starter concerns me there a little bit more. Last time out, just 3 2/3, 5 strikeouts, but an inefficient day with 5 walks, 3 earned runs over 19 hitters against the Mets, but that's a very good Mets lineup. Struck out 6 Mariners, but gave up 3 earned runs, did allow a home run. He's allowed a homer in each of his last 3 starts, by the way. So something to note there. Again, not guaranteeing there's no home run here. Just talking about what the overall numbers and why the Tigers numbers are a little bit low so that Larry C. doesn't have to ask. 6 innings of shutout ball several starts ago against the Marlins. 5 innings of 1-run ball, 1 earned run, but 6 runs total over 5 against the Cubbies. 5 strikeouts in that game. 2 7-strikeout games to lead the way through his game log here. Not great for depth. Typically just 5 innings on deck, which is where I've got him. So you can see in a 5-inning game, that's a reasonable enough projection for the cheap price at 75. And we could spike a little bit of ceiling for something like one of those 7 strikeout days. In no way is it safe. In no way is it even really a recommendation because there's a lot of guys in that range that project just as good. And this is a very good Tigers lineup. But it's there. It's on the board. What's not really overly appealing, even against a pitcher that you're probably not all that familiar with, is the White Sox lineup. 3.76 implied total with Sawyer Gipson Long on the mound. Let me see and make sure. Nope, that changed. Now it's Bo Brisky. I checked it right before the show. I had a feeling it was going to change. Bear with me. I think it's just Brisky opening, and then I'm looking if it's still Gipson Long coming back. Yuri Perez debut during the upcoming road trip for the Marlins. No report on it. Excuse me. Yeah. So what I'm looking for is if Gipson Long's still the expected follower. Brisky's not giving us more than 2 innings at most. It's annoying. Keep getting the same report. I'm going to assume it's still him. He's probably not correctly priced at 68 to use in that bulk relief role. So I think he's off the board, which is unfortunate because he's a somewhat interesting strikeout guy. As I mentioned, 31.7 over just 4 starts, 20 innings. But to throw against this team, I was kind of a buyer. But that was in a full start. So I think he's kind of off the board, and you don't want Bo Brisky in an opening role. But again, you don't really want White Sox bats for whatever Gipson Long ends up pitching or whoever comes out of the pen that's kind of low end. Brisky, just 15.7% strikeouts, a 4.95 ERA with a 5.10 xFIP. So maybe a gettable option here for 2 innings. That's why you don't want Bo Brisky in your lineups at 4,000. But these are the White Sox. They're not very good. They're not overly appealing to roster, even against the opener follower situation. Tauchman gets on base a lot. He's got 2 home runs on the board. He's hit the ball fairly effectively. But what we're really here for with Mike Tauchman is the on base, the correlated scoring option. He's created runs 101% better than average over 55 plate appearances is what he does. Not to that degree, obviously, in the long term. But where we run into problems, like always, is down lineup from here. No Lou Bob in the lineup, for one thing. Even with his struggles, you do want him there if you're stacking this team. Chase Meadroth's been very good, but he's a slap hitter. He's an on-base guy, too. He's unlikely or less than likely to drive in Mike Tauchman with a big knock. 0.9% barrels, 39.5% hard hits. There's an argument to be made to have those guys the other way around. Tauchman at least puts a little bit better bat on ball. Meadroth does have 1 home run. He's stolen 8 bases. He's created runs 12% better than average. Again, he's been good over 148 plate appearances. Miguel Vargas has not been good, but he's hit 8 home runs. 186 ISO. For them, he's one of their better bats. 10.6% barrels, 1.8% hard hits. Both those numbers are up in a monster way in 235 plate appearances. And even with the leap in strikeouts as well, it's just resulted in mediocrity. I don't think there's anything really to get excited about with Vargas here. He's cheap. I'll give him that. Not necessarily on FanDuel, but at 31 on DraftKings. If you 3-man that off the top, is it okay at 31 apiece? Sure. But it's not that appealing. Benintendi's put a lot of barrels on the ball in 137 plate appearances. He's found 6 home runs. It's uncharacteristic power outlay. It's not what he does. Not realistic to expect him to continue doing that. And he's only slashing 242, 316, 425. Creating runs 9% better than average. Congratulations. We'll see where you are in a month. Austin Slater's a mix and match quality guy. Always has been. Josh Rojas, same thing. Edgar Quero slid a little bit. He started out the season effectively. He is getting on base at a 337 clip. That's the one thing to hang on to here. Low strikeout, high walk. Otherwise has been pretty mediocre. Michael A. giving us our usual high-quality batted ball events, 9.4% barrels, 40.6% hard hits. Similar to the last couple of seasons, it's resulted in just 200, 261, 343 as a part-time player, just a 277 xWOBA, which is why nobody will go to him. If you're using White Sox, I would put Michael A. into the stack. It's not a great spot in the lineup, but I mean, who cares? You're stacking the White Sox. Grab those 3 guys and then do one there and maybe take Keto as the catcher. And you're off and running at 29.40 a piece, and you get their best bats. It's not good. Michael A. does have pop in the bat, and nobody ever uses him. It's outside of us. 3.44 in the home run model, though. It tells you kind of what you need to know. Tigers bats. Now that Gibson Long is off the board, Shane Smith is at least somewhat realistic on DraftKings at 75. Not a good option, but a playable one. Really no White Sox bats for me, but I get it if you wanted to take a few cheap darts in 150 lineups. You probably should across 150. If you're building one, don't use the White Sox. This show could just be called Don't Use the White Sox. Doug Geely's here. Doug's playing a lot of Philly, KC, Mets, and Twins paired with Green and Bayo. I don't love Bayo. Everything else about that, I like a lot. I think Green comes with some risk, but also a nice vaulted arch ceiling made out of reclaimed wood. So tremendous option there. I like all 4 of those teams for bats. Bayo is what I would try and improve there. Not a big believer seeing a lot of upside for the Angels on the other side of that game in a hitter-friendly park. So 8-game's got $100 in. It's plus 6,500 on the D-backs to take the World Series. Look, at that price, I don't hate that bet at all. That's a very high-quality team. That's just unfortunate with the pitching staff so far. We'll see what happens with Corbin Burns and that elbow. But yeah, Brendan Pfaadt obviously has been problematic. Erod is on and off the injured list, and so on and so forth. Gowan. Oh, this is Doug's first time playing MLB this season. I miss you and your attendance at the shows, Doug, and your comments and your good questions and everything, buddy. Miss you too. Good to see it. First slate of the year. So the Cards, as Gundacker mentioned, and we talked about in the run-up, 4.94 implied total feels really high. They're going up against Michael Lorenzen. He's given up a 4.33 ERA and an exact match 4.33 xFIP. He is who he looks like. 19.1% Ks against the 7% walk. That's adequate. It's not good, but it's adequate. 10.5% swinging. He can find some whiffs, but just a 26.2% CSW. A 1.40 whip doesn't necessarily reflect the medium walk rate. Probably got a lot of BABIP success here. 3.07 BABIP against so far. So hitters are finding some luck, some good fortune against him. He does allow a lot of contact, and he does allow a lot of high-quality contact. So it's not entirely luck. It might not be luck at all. But it is a notably high batting average on balls in play against him that's maybe having an impact on that whip, that maybe has an impact then, cascading downward with runners on base, more opportunities. If he gives up this power, costs him a little bit in the run department. So you could see how the dots connect with Lorenzen here. But there is enough quality to play him. 8,200 and especially at 7,200 against the middle of the road Cardinals lineup. I think that run total is, I don't want to say a full run too high, but I mean, it's more than a half run too high. Lorenzen's not good, but neither is his Cards lineup. I'm kind of on his side at those prices. I think he's a very serviceable SP2 on DraftKings. Nothing to get excited about, but very usable. And at 82 on FanDuel, maybe you could take some shots. It's probably not the best option there, especially with Vegas seeing it the way they do. He had a pair of 7-inning starts going back 4 starts against Boston and Houston. 7 strikeouts against Boston, 5 against Houston. 4 earned runs in the Houston game. Came on a home run and whatever else, 7 hits. Was very good in that Red Sox game. Slipped a little bit, just 4 2/3 against San Francisco, 5 Ks and a walk, 2 earned on 7 hits. And then most recently, 5 innings against Cincinnati in KC, 6 earned runs allowed on 11 hits, 2 strikeouts, 3 walks. That's the downside. That's where you get up to a monster BABIP against. Andre Pallante has an interesting impact on the Royals. He is another pitcher who is aggressively good at keeping the ball down. Negative 1.8 degree average launch angle this year. He's gotten a little bit unlucky on some of his mistakes, so he is at a 3.41% home run rate. It's another pitcher where we're not saying it's impossible to hit a home run against him because he's given up 8% barrels this year. This against that is weird. That means that when he's made those mistakes, they've been tattooed on perfect trajectory for some home run upside. 43.2% hard hits, 89.9 miles an hour of exit velo. Lot of ability to get ground balls through the infield against. Last year on similar numbers, a higher average launch, he was at 1.57% home runs. But you can see where the barrels were, 3.3. That's a monster uptick. 3.5 the year before. In relief work, he had a negative 11.5 degree. That's absurd. I think that's underground. Just 1.99% home runs. Never been a high strikeout pitcher. Spiked 18.5 last year, but it was against 9.4% walks. There's always guys on base. There's plenty of opportunity to sequence against this pitcher. Where you create the big upside day against them, though, is if you're sequencing and then we find that big knock, right? We do still need that home run. The good news is the Royals just imported a major home run bat. If you're not familiar, meet Jack Caglianone. Monster power. Left-handed bat, major prospect. Yet another absurd prospect. Isn't that great about baseball? We just year after year have just these great crops of newcomer prospects to fill out. Bad teams get better in a hurry. Good teams get great in a hurry. Baseball really works like no other sport that way, in my opinion. Smaller crops of players in the NBA and drafts. Hockey takes way too long for guys to develop. Football, you only get a handful of guys that truly land and make impacts in their rookie year or even first couple seasons. Baseball's different. Jack, who, by the way, is named Jeffrey Allen Caglianone. Jack is kind of like Joe Bluth, George Oscar Bluth. Jack is an abbreviation, but we'll call him Jack for now. If he struggles, we might have to start calling him Jeff. Over 229 plate appearances, 175 at AA, 54 at AAA this year. He has 15 home runs on the board, 271 ISO, slashing 322, 389, 593 combined, 159 WRC plus. He hit 6 home runs in 54 plate appearances after getting the bump to AAA. That's why he's here. Kid's a monster. Oh, we got their lineup. Fantastic. He's hitting 6th, not 5th, but no major downgrade there. So again, against a pitcher that does limit home run upside a little bit, you can see he's at just 4.25. If we had popped somebody else in this start for the Cards, that would be a higher number given his raw power upside. And you'd see higher numbers on, the usual suspects, the Bobby Witts, the Sal Pettis of the world, Vinny Pasquantino. This is a very good Royals team for sequencing, though. So everything that's the downside of Andre Pallante, the Royals can easily exploit here. So I very much like this lineup. I think that is a low total for them at 416. I would just split this differently. Like, maybe it's just a matter of making it more of a toss-up type game. That's still too high. Maybe more like that. And I honestly would see it more like, like something like that. Give it dead even. Let me undo all that. Obviously, those are playing with those numbers. Oops. One too few undos. I just see the Royals with a little bit more juice, and I see the Cardinals with a little bit less. Can't help it. Jonathan India, top of the Royals bats, 3,000, 2,500 with 3 position eligibility on FanDuel. Getting on at a 328 clip. Everything else has been problematic. 331 xWOBA is at least encouraging under the covers, and he's only striking out 14.8% while drawing a 10.9% walk that is actually high quality. So if we're just looking to attack Andre Pallante for what he does poorly, bad strikeout target in Jonathan India and a good good option for him drawing a walk against for a high walk pitcher. So love the upside for India. Getting on base ahead of Bobby Witt. We'll do Bobby Witt some favors. 55, 4,000, perfectly fine as far as the price goes for that player. 12% barrels, 48.2% hard hits, 6 homers, 20 steals. Monster numbers across the board, a 121 WRC plus. Michael Garcia hitting third, back in the lineup, dealing with a little bit of a thumb issue, but has been tremendous overall. Sat out a game on Sunday, I want to say, but back in the lineup now, presumably okay. 316, 378, 474, and been a monster on the season. 5 home runs, 10 steals, 347 xWOBA, suggestive of a little bit more to come. Love the improvements the kids made. Looking forward to it continuing. Vinny is still ludicrously cheap at 32.27. We know who this player's been over the last couple seasons. Super low strikeout, medium walk, tons and tons of contact with mixed results, 19 home runs last year. But with the, appreciable ability to take that to a new level with better contact coming into this season, and really, really struggled out of the gate. We talked about it early, how he himself was on MLB Central, talking about his timing and how he had improved his bat speed accidentally during the offseason, and it was screwing with his timing early. And it had a big, big impact on his early numbers. Since April 25th, Vinny is at 306, 350, 463 with a 128 WRC plus, a 16.8% strikeout rate, a 4.9% walk rate, 6 home runs, 16 runs, 16 ribbies if you care about those sorts of things, 3 doubles in there. Just a 157 ISO, still does need to climb, but he has improved the premium contact a little bit. 8.6% barrels is up from there. So we've gotten back to form with Vinny Pasquantino, and the sites have not reacted. 3,200, 2,700. I feel like we've been talking about this for 2-3 weeks now, and he's still not budging. Love the upside here. Even if it's just for what Pawlenty does bad, and we're not looking for the home run. That is a singles, doubles type hitter too. Love the upside for Vinny. Sal Pettis, 32.26. I know he's struggled this year. 229, 268, 353 is way off the mark for quality that we expect from this player. A 355 xWOBA under the covers tells us everything's going to be fine. So do these numbers. 12.9% barrels, 46.5% hard hits. He's barreling the ball more and hitting it harder than he did last year. It's Sal Pettis. You just keep going there. Caglianone easily on the board, 35-25, first base and outfield eligibility, so we don't even worry about positional conflict. Ideal to put him in a bat in the lineup. Get him in your Royal stack while he is cheap. He is going to be dramatically more expensive than either of those prices very, very soon. Nick Lofton, Drew Waters, Kyle Isbell, mix and match pieces down bottom of the lineup. None of those guys is bad, but none of those guys is good either. Any one of those guys could give you a 2-hit day, score a run. Maybe you get one over the wall, but very light for that. Maybe you get a stolen base, but very light for that as well. Let's talk cards, bats against Lorenzen. Obviously, again, an exploitable enough pitcher, but just a serviceable mid-rotation type guy too. So that total is aggressive for a team that comes in with 3 guys above the line for WRC plus in fair samples. A 178 over 107 plate appearances out of Ivan Herrera, who is a high-quality catcher. 105 in 165 out of Alec Burleson, who is a reasonably high-quality outfielder, but both kind of mid-board players overall. The average WRC plus for the full lineup is 111, so it is a positive number for sure. But there's some problematic options down here. There are plenty of strikeouts to find down there. Even for a guy like Lorenzen, I could see an uptick to a maybe not quite 1-4 type day, but 1-5 to 1-4, somewhere in that territory. Some of these guys do avoid strikeouts pretty effectively, though. Arenado obviously is very low strikeout at 11.3. Burleson is low. Ivan Herrera has been good in that department. Donovan's always been good in that department. Mason Wynn striking out somewhat more than he did each of the last 2 years. We'll see where that goes, but that's believable in that territory too. Lars Nootbaar, 19%, right around where he typically is. Nobody in the double digits yet for home runs. Couple few home runs for everybody in the lineup. Couple of stolen bases for everybody not named Victor Scott, and he hits 9th. This is not an overly appealing DFS team. 3 guys with double-digit barrel rates, everybody else below 8%. Wilson Contreras, 11.1 with a 43.8% hard hit, but he's only at 242, 322, 377 in exchange for it. 366 xWOBA tells us that we're going to go up. We're getting a discount for the underperformance so far. With the team coming in at a high total, you have to consider these guys, and Contreras is a priority in that equation. Herrera is a priority, but he's very high priced on DraftKings where you have to play catchers. FanDuel, where you don't, is very reasonable, 29. He's at 5 home runs and 107 plate appearances. That's a really high price to pay over here. So I don't know how much you want to consider him. Donovan at 46. That's a high price for Brendan Donovan. Second base and outfield. That's at least you get second base out of it. 323, 383, 461, a 384 xWOBA. He's been tremendous over 241. This is the ideal version of Brendan Donovan we've been hunting for the last few years. Does he keep it up or does it just normalize back to the guy we've seen for those last few years? My money's on the latter. I think that's too high a price. You're paying a tax for what he's already done. 41 from Mason Wynn's reasonable. He's having an okay year, 276, 350, 431, 326 xWOBA last year, 103 WRC plus with 11 steals, 15 homers over 637. He's fine, but he's not my favorite way to fill shortstop. Nootbaar's my favorite bet on this team. 10.2% barrels, 52.8% hard hits, just 8 home runs. Just a 160 ISO, 355 xWOBA, 115 WRC plus. I think my second favorite bet on this team is still Nolan Gorman, just for all the raw power potential, but he's never really come through in any kind of reliable sense. 107 pretty terrible plate appearances so far this year. Nothing at all to like about this year or about the current form for this hitter. Last year at 19 in 402 pretty bad otherwise plate appearances. Year before, 27 in 464 more manageable plate appearances. Created runs 18% better than average, 241 ISO, but has been atrocious for the better part of the last 800 plate appearances. Royals bats, Cardinals bats. Michael Lorenzen, Andre Palante. All 4 corners are loosely playable. Palante's the lowest end. And to refine that point a little bit, not really appealing for Palante because it's extreme low strikeout against a really good sequencing team. No Orioles, no Mariners in yet. So lingering questions about George Kirby, who was dealing with an injury coming into the season, has only made 2 starts. Both of them went poorly. You can see the 11.42 ERA, but a much more reasonable 4.45 xFIP to start out. Has given up several home runs in the small sample with major premium contact issues. Might have been a good idea to let him stretch out a little bit more in the minors before bringing him back up to the show. But it just shows, the Mariners and the pitching, their need for pitching. Prior to this mess, he was a tremendous option. 23% strikeouts against 3% walks last year, 22.7 against 2.5% the year before, 3.35 and a 3.63 ERA and xFIP. Last year, 3.53 with a 3.58, 11.4% swinging strikes. Just tremendous. He's a very good pitcher. Gives you lots of depth typically too. 191 innings in 33 starts, 190 and 2/3 in 31 starts. Excellent option when things are going well. I just have no guarantee for you that things are going to go well. That's the problem. And I don't know what the pitch count's going to look like. That's the other problem. Threw 78 in his first, or 72 in his first start, 78 last time. He could throw 85. He could get through these Orioles for into the 6th inning. I don't know if he can complete the 6th against this team on 85 pitches, especially if things don't go well. I'm so tempted, though, by 88,000 for what the upside on George Kirby looks like. It's reflected, I think, in his projection. I don't think the projection's necessarily incorrect, but I don't think there's ceiling on it. So that's the limiting factor here. There's kind of just a bar over where you can get to with this play for that money. So that quote unquote median projection is more like the ceiling number, I think, today. There's maybe a little bit more if he does find his form all of a sudden, but it's been difficult to see in the rehab starts and the first 2 outings so far. But again, love the pitcher. Once he's stretched back out and fully healthy and fully engaged and has his stuff back, we're going to be excited to roster George Kirby, and hopefully he'll be even cheaper by then. Honestly, I hope this goes terribly so that he gets even cheaper. Tomo Sugano, I don't think we're going to here. Yeah, maybe he could give you some clean innings. Maybe he finds a few additional Ks against the Mariners lineup, but just 13.7% strikeouts so far, 7.6% swinging, just a 23.8% CSW. He's somehow pitched to a 3.23 ERA in spite of those numbers, 4.36 xFIP. Some of that is just the very low 3.9% walk rate because he's given up a lot of power. 4.30% home runs so far on 10% barrels. The hard hits, the exit velo have been manageable, but that is a very high home run number, and it's even higher as far as the ridiculous contact that he's allowed to lefties so far, which I mentioned way back at the beginning of the show, and which is why we're going to talk about some of these Mariners bats in a big way. Sugano, where is he? 5 1/3, 3 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, no walks against St. Louis last time out. 2 earned runs, 6 innings, 5 hits allowed, 3 strikeouts, a walk, a home run allowed. He's allowed 4 home runs in his last 3 starts, but he's made it through 6 1/3, 6, and 5 1/3. So yeah, you could get him into the 6th, maybe even the 7th inning for 65, 79. But what's your DFS upside really looking like? Even if it's a 2-3 run day, what's your DFS upside really looking like when it comes with a bunch of hits? No strikeout upside really. Maybe he finds 4 strikeouts today. He had an 8 strikeout day against the Yankees back on April 28th. That's his by far upside day. 7 1/3 of 1-run ball against the Angels. No home run allowed. 1 run on 3 hits, 5 strikeouts, no walk. Maybe that's his best day. Has gone into the 7th multiple times though. So you're just paying for cheap depth if you go there, but I am much, much more on the Mariners side, and I love that they're low owned today. 4.08 implied total, kind of like the opposite of the Cards. I do not think that reflects the Mariners' upside against this pitcher. You can see some of it reflected in the home run numbers. 3 guys above the magic number, 2 guys right around it, 9.97 on Jorge Polanco, 8.53 on Randy Arozarena. Cal Raleigh is a monster option today. Just put this in perspective real quick. Do I have to go to StatCast for this? All right, we'll do it with the raw numbers. Against 133 lefties so far this season, Sugano's given up 7 home runs, a 441 slug. The ISO was, it's got to be on here somewhere. Why does it not have ISO on this page? That's weird. Going over to StatCast. Splits. Can I not get this either? That's annoying. Oh, whatever. He gives up a lot of premium contact to lefties. Gundecker's probably got it handy if he's still in the chat. Oh, you know what? I think I could steal the note from our guys over at RG, actually. I think they have it noted. That's what I'm looking for. 213 ISO against lefties, allowing a 9.3% barrel to lefties. So monster upside for some left-handed power. Those were the numbers I was looking for. Why was that so difficult? JP Crawford from the top of the Mariners lineup, very appealing at 35.27 at shortstop. Dude's getting on base at a 388 clip. I don't really know what we're doing here. He's hitting the ball effectively enough. 6.7% barrels, 33.6% hard hits. When you're getting on base like that, I'll take it. He also hit 18 home runs 2 years ago while getting on base at a 380 clip that was lower than this. 359 xwOBA reflects some of the lingering quality of contact that might be available. 134 WRC plus, even as just a table setter. He's too cheap and very viable at shortstop. Even though he's not star caliber, that's a very playable shortstop when he comes with all this power behind him. Jorge Polanco, 12.4% barrels, 49.6% hard hits. He's been scuffling over the last 3 weeks or so, down to 255, 304, 497, 10 home runs, 242 ISO, 387 xwOBA, still kind of lingering around the edges though. Definitely still like the upside. Maybe it's just a roller coaster where we're up some weeks, we're down other weeks, but you can kind of ride on the low strikeouts so far, just 13.6%, down from high 20s, mid 20s the last 2 seasons. We've seen some obvious improvement here for Polanco. We'll see how it is sustainable. 51-34 for Julio with an 11.61 in the home run model against this pitcher. Very appealing. He's got 10 on the board already. 353 xwOBA is encouraging under the continually improving slash line, but it started out really cold again this year. He's up to a 114 WRC plus and major room for improvement. Raleigh is our first monster power bat, as I was getting at before. He's going to be hitting from the left side here, 13.68. Him and Schwarber dueling for that spot, but I didn't use either of them for the home run pick because I got another guy 2 spots later in Rowdy Tellez. The home run pick of the day, 12.58 in your home run model. He's got 8 on the season, 142 plate appearances with 15.5% barrels, 43.3% hard hits. Rowdy is not good enough to be a 3 true outcomes hitter. His strikeouts are up this year while walks stay down at 5.6%. He didn't strike out as much last year, and it's not a crazy high strikeout rate. So he's kind of caught in between being like a mediocre power bat and a 3 true outcomes guy. Only slashing 206, 261, 420, but a 214 ISO, a 340 xwOBA. Some encouraging numbers, and again, monster left-handed power available against this pitcher. And we've seen Rowdy hit for monster left-handed power in the past. Randy Arozarena in between, a lot of barrels, a lot of hard hits out of him from the right side. 29% strikeouts, but 12% walks. He's getting on at a 344 clip. His creator runs 20% better than average. Another guy with plenty of power, 7 home runs for him on the season. Raleigh leads the league at 23. Down lineup, we get Leody Taveras, Cole Young, and Ben Williamson. Mix and match pieces at best. You get a little bit of pop out of Taveras with some speed, but he isn't getting on base. He's not really hitting for average. Williamson's been okay, 250, 280, 306. Not a good on base, very poor xwOBA and a 71 WRC plus, but hitting for a little bit of average. Just looking to pick off a cheap bat to wrap around to the top. He's playable, but not ideal at third base, given the almost total lack of power upside. And then Cole Young, cheap at second base, cheaper at shortstop on FanDuel. I'd rather have J.P. Crawford in the majority of my Mariner stacks, though. On the Orioles side, 349 implied total, I think does reflect the respect that we have to give to George Kirby and his actual quality here. So I'm not excited about getting to an underperforming Orioles lineup. Even if it's a short day, an uglier day for George Kirby, it's probably still going to limit these runs somewhat. So don't love it. Jackson Holiday, playable at 41, 3,000 if you're determined to go to them. 10.3% barrels, 45.9% hard hits. Creating runs 18% better than average. And a healthy 347 xwOBA tells us that we will trend up and he'll continue to grow into his major league cleats. Kid is good. He's fulfilling his potential. He wasn't as bad as advertised last year, despite the flaws, despite the trip back down to the minors. He's got major talent upside in the leadoff role. Tremendous. Haven't gotten this in the last few minutes while I've been talking. Adley continuing to struggle. 203, 300, 332, 5 home runs. I thought we were going to be over this coming into this season, and we really haven't been. But the 352 xwOBA is extremely encouraging. 17.4% strikeouts, 11.7% walks. Strikeouts are slightly up. Walks are up several points and more and higher, a larger difference. 8.7% barrels, 40% hard hits. There is some good in here. He's gotten very cheap at 41 where you have to play catchers, 28 where you don't, where they don't have a true first baseman. I don't mind the option on either site. Gunner's a priority if you're going to this team. Slipped a little bit for barrels so far. Hard hits are right around where they ought to be, though. 259, 318, 433 with 7 homers and 6 steals, a 114 WRC plus. Ryan O'Hearn continuing to mash. Creating runs 74% better than average, getting on base at a 416 clip. He's been one of the best bats in the American League, full stop. 10% barrel rate. 10% barrel rate out of Colton Cowser, who returns to the lineup. He's kind of expensive at 4,300 on DraftKings. He's 25 on FanDuel. That's a much more appealing FanDuel bat. Colton Cowser's got very realistic power. Last year, 13.6% barrels, 45.2% hard hits, hit 24 bombs in 561 plate appearances with a 204 ISO. Major bat to get back into this lineup for the O's, but that's kind of up there for the return. 1 home run on the board in 18 plate appearances this year. Ramon Urias, 2,900, 2,600, always playable. 2 home runs, slashing 279, 333, 364. Has more power than he's flashed so far this year, but has at least been respectable in his 147 opportunities, right on the nose, 100 league average WRC plus, 7.6% barrels, nearly 40% hard hits, right in line with expectations. That is who Ramon Urias is. Typically comes with a couple more home runs along the way, so he hasn't hit him yet. Grab them while they're before they come. Dylan Carlson, Kobe Mayo, Houston Kierstad. All playable names going down this lineup. Nobody's been good this year. There's good in, the 4 home runs and 156 chances with an 8.7 and 42.7 in the barrels and hard hits for Kierstad. Everything else is difficult to see, though. Kobe Mayo, you just have a little bit of pedigree there. And Dylan Carlson, same kind of thing. 2 home runs, 1 stolen base. A little bit bumpy so far, but a 180 ISO in 54 plate appearances. Little bit of track. Last year was bad over 265. Year before was pretty bad over 255. In 488 the year before that, that's where we kind of got some expectations from. He had a league average 100 ISO or 100 WRC plus, 8 home runs, 5 steals, and the visible upside for improvement that just hasn't arrived. So again, mix and match quality player there. Mariners bats. George Kirby, but probably not because I don't think there's much ceiling. And then not much from the O's, maybe some hedge stack or some contrarian stacks lightly in a bunch of lineups, but they're not that appealing. Padres, Giants. Landon Roop on the bump for the Giants, coming in with a 22.6%. Strikeout 3.54 ERA with a 3.66 xFIP. Certainly serviceable. Mariners just dropped. Fantastic. That looks pretty similar to what we had. I think it's exactly what we had. Thanks, Ant. Appreciate that. Marvin Simpson, in the early games on FanDuel, what teams would you target the most? We spent the first hour and a half of this now 2.5 hour show talking about the early games. But just to do it real quick, the Yankees are quite obviously on the board. The Phillies are really interesting against Bowden Francis. I like the Braves quite a bit at that total against Zach Gallen with a lot of home run upside. The Red Sox are definitely playable against UC Kikuchi, but they do see a bit of a downturn against lefties. Both of these teams are on the board for offense, but both of those pitchers are on the board because they're very good. That bandbox ballpark does play up some power upside. Reds seeing more of it, but I see that more of a tie. Are those the early games? Is that good? So you can just ride with some of the Vegas totals in some of those obvious spots. If I had to call favorites, Phillies against Bowden Francis for some home run upside for sure. And then Braves or Yankees. Those would be my 3 favorite spots out of those early few games. But then if you poke around, I think the Angels are very playable. Again, both those teams are playable. The Diamondbacks, I think, are playable. So a lot to work with early there. Pods and Giants. Neither of these teams' lineups is in yet. So Roop is finding some strikeouts, walking too many, putting way too many guys on base, but getting through, finding decent success as far as the runs, as far as the xFIP goes. Solid 29.3% CSW against a 10.5% swinging. Has not allowed premium contact really at all. 7% barrels, 31% hard hits, 87.2 miles an hour of exit velo. There's a lot to like there. Successful cup of coffee last year and some relief appearances in 4 starts. 3.58 ERA with a 4.17 xFIP. Walked too many at 12%, but was effective and had a great mark by Stuff Plus in those appearances. That has slipped somewhat this year, but it hasn't hurt him. In fact, he's kind of improved upon those numbers. So the only real thing that is a negative here for Roop is the ridiculously good team on the other side. 20.7% strikeouts is up from 18.3 overall for this team. But that's with sticking Luis Campusano's 19 plate appearances at 31.6 into that. At last year's number at 13.7, we would be back to normal. This is a low strikeout, high quality Padres team. They're good, not great overall. It's very top heavy. They remind me a lot of the Blue Jays. A lot of flaws down lineup. But it does limit the ceiling for Landon Root. 12.5 projection for 74 on DraftKings, super playable. 83 on FanDuel, a little bit lighter. I don't love the ceiling, but I think he's playable. Just 4 innings last time out, gave up 1 earned run, but 4 runs total on to 21 hitters. Struck out 7 and walked 2. Had just a 2 strikeout game against the Nats before that, but went clean, 5 hits, no runs over 6 innings. 6 innings before that, another shutout for 5 innings, 5 hits, or 6 innings, 5 hits, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks in that one. It's been a minute since he spiked a major strikeout day. The 7 was okay against in 4 innings, but obviously problematic for runs and efficiency in that game. 2 games at the beginning of the year had an 8 strikeout game against the Phillies and a 9 strikeout game against the Angels. And in his debut, an 8 strikeout game against the Astros over just 4 innings. Capable of finding some Ks, but this team limits that. So challenging. Ryan Bergert has gotten a little bit stretched out. He made a few appearances in relief in late April, early May. Went just an inning in each of those in the show. That's where we're getting these 4 innings, the 14-3, no walks, a 0 ERA, but a 5.34 xFIP from no swinging strikes, essentially, 13.7% CSW. Those numbers are pathetic. But again, it was 1 inning at a time, and we'll take what we get. In the minors, he went down after his appearance on the 6th, made 4 starts in the minors, had been starting in the minors prior to the call-up to the show as well. So he's made 9 AAA starts this year. He got back up to 4 innings in his most recent one, 3 innings to start before that, 4 innings to start before that one. Okay, not major strikeout numbers. We got, 37 of 155, so 24% strikeouts, essentially, 23.8. Good, not great strikeouts. I think we're just looking at 5 innings max against a good Giants team that has a 4.48 implied total. The kind of thing that's maybe appealing is the 5,500. If I could just book 5 innings for that with maybe a little strikeout along the way. Last year in the minors, 20 starts, 23 appearances, 105 and 2/3 innings, 29.2% strikeouts, 10.7% walks, but 29.2% strikeouts. Pitched to a 2.73 ERA with a 3.74 xFIP. I'm not trying to sell it too hard because I'm not sure. But maybe. If you're building 150, I think it's worth taking a few shots on. If you're building a 20, maybe you throw it into 1 on DK at 55 just as an SP2 alternative. All you really need is 5 innings of reasonable quality there. He's in the bargain bin at least. 65 on FanDuel becomes more problematic. You really need him to find some strikeouts along the way because it probably don't get you to the quality start. Shaky on FanDuel. Probably also shaky on DraftKings. Much more reasonable to go to Giants bats against him. 8.26 in the home run model for Elliot Ramos at the top of the lineup. Some quality power bats in Wilmer Flores and Matt Chapman and Mike Yastrzemski. Yaz has struggled this season. 218 pretty weak plate appearances. 5 home runs, 5 steals. 237 with a 335 on base. That's kind of saving his life because his slug is at just 374. He's got a 137 ISO, but he's managed to create runs via getting on base. 102 WRC plus. We expect more power from Yaz. We expect more premium contact. Barrels have slipped quite a bit. Matty Chapman still barreling balls very frequently, 10-7, 51.7% hard hits. He's hit 10 homers. He's scuffling in the average department, but we don't expect a ton of batting average out of Matty Chapman. 355 on base more than makes up for that. 187 ISO is down a little bit, but capable of roaring back in the results-based departments. 371 xWOBA will tell you that. 123 WRC plus. Wilmer is kind of a matter of faith. We know that we've seen him hit home runs. We do believe that there have been home runs hit in the past. I believe much more in his past home runs than I ever believe in his future home runs, if that makes any sense. 5.8% barrels, 24.4% hard hits, 5.9, 27.4, 7.8, 32.5. In no way is he a good striker of baseballs. He does so frequently, 17.6% Ks this year, 13.6 last year, 13.9 the year before. And again, has always found his home runs. 4,400 though, you're kind of paying for those past home runs with no real guarantee of future home runs. 6.29 is okay in the model, but first and third base, he's An ideal player, and he's very difficult to recommend on a DFS basis. 3,000 on FanDuel is slightly more reasonable. Still not great at first base. He's fine, but he's never going to be somebody I'm going to push too hard. Jung-Hoo Lee, 275, 323, 432 this year. Creating runs 12% better than average. Ramos has 10 home runs on the board, a 192 ISO, a 349 xWOBA based on all this premium contact. I think just yesterday or maybe on Friday's show, we talked about his tremendous year last year as a rookie. He's very, very good. 45-36. Cheaper on DraftKings than on FanDuel, and against a presumably AAA type pitcher, there's upside there. Down lineup, Willy Adames is cheap at 38. I know he's been bad. Just have faith. 10.4% barrels, 43.6% hard hits if you need that life raft. He's also drawn exact same walk rate that he did last year. Strikeouts up, but negligibly so, similar to 2 years ago. He's not that far off the mark. I know the results have been bad, but we are not that lost. He's like walking in the woods, yelling out for us, trying to find us. But we can actually see him. We're like, hey, Willie, we're right over here, man. You're not as lost as it seems like. He's going to find it. Gerardo Encarnacion, monster premium contact last year in 119 plate appearances, 5 home runs, a 177 ISO. The results don't really reflect the quality of contact. 15% barrels and 58.8% hard hits. Ton of strikeouts, not many walks. A lot of power, but it's like raw power. So you're just looking for some happenstance. 7.14 in the home run model, reflective of the upside. Patty Bailey is a cheap catcher bat. He's been bad this year. He was okay last year. Tyler Fitz, right now we're at like mix and match quality. He was much better last season than he has been so far this year, even in the underlying 284 xWOBA, but there's not a lot to see. 102 WRC plus, a pair of home runs, 8 steals. Not a bad slash line, but not as good as he was last year. A little bit of downturn, but he's also missed some time. I expect him to normalize back up toward, similar numbers to last year. He's cheap in the middle infield. I like him on both sides to round out a giant stack. You can use him as a wraparound option as well. He's a reliable enough on base guy. On the Padres side, pretty much skipped over this lineup while talking about Landon Roop. I do think maybe some ability to play some marginal Padres. Maybe it works better as one-offs. Maybe it works better around the edges. 13 home runs and 10 steals on the board for Fernando Tatis at 53-39. You can always play Fernando Tatis. 215 ISO at 377 xWOBA, but he's a superstar. Luis Arraez is not a play him anytime kind of a guy, though. You really only want Arraez in your lineup when you're playing stacks of Padres. He's a table setter. He doesn't provide a ton of individual upside. 3-hit day is always in the cards for him, of course. You get a tremendous amount of balls in play. So for 39, if you're just buying that, it's better to use that to feed the machine of your stack, though. You want those guys who end up driving them in rather than just the base hits. That's how you put a 9 into your lineup instead of a 29. Manny Machado at 48-34. 7 home runs, 7 steals, tremendous slash line, 400 xWOBA, a 12.4% barrel and 52.5% hard hits. He's honestly still a little bit cheap for the quality we've seen and what we know the player has to give. Jackson Merrill, appropriate at 5,035, slashing 328, 370, 523, mashing again this season. Tremendous option. Xander Bogaerts, another successful day yesterday. We're at 242, 328, 338, 3 homers, 11 steals, just a 90 WRC plus, a questionable xWOBA, a low ISO at 0.096. There is lingering quality, though. Low strikeout, high walk. He's made improvements in those areas. He has pushed the hard hits up a little bit despite a slip in barrels. That means there's a little bit more power if he finds the happenstance in those batted ball events. I think he's a little bit more healthier now than he was, but it's been questionable around in the long term. That's why he's so cheap, though, at 36.29. I would continue to play him. I prefer him at second base, though, on FanDuel. Jake Cronenworth is a mix and match guy who's capable of hitting the ball hard. He's had a mediocre 130 plate appearances this year. He's always playable. He's never a priority. Luis Campusano, Tyler Wade, Martin Maldonado. If you get the dual catcher configuration, take your pick. You're just kind of home run hunting with either one of those guys. Campusano does give you the more realistic ability to put balls in play. He's low strikeout, medium walk. So you get more out of Campusano than Maldonado. You get the infrequent power upside out of Maldonado. Tyler Wade's just been bad at the major league level throughout. Giants bats, Landon Roop, Padres bats, Ryan Bergert on DraftKings. That also might be Burger. I'm not entirely sure. No, think you meant the 3-game turbo for that question about the early games on FanDuel. I don't, didn't that start? It's a 6:40 start. It's probably about to start. Hour from now. All right. To do this really, really quickly. Sandy Alcantara against the Rockies, even with as bad as he's been, is easily playable because he remains Sandy Alcantara, and that's a terrible Rockies team. Against Chase Dollander, I could see getting away with some Marlins, but he's actually a very high-end pitching prospect, and at 74, that's kind of interesting. But those Marlins can hit righties pretty hard with Kyle Stowers, Jesus Sanchez in that lineup. Agustin Ramirez is interesting. Xavier Edwards is back in that lineup now at 2,900 on the FanDuel slate. So that Marlins team is actually maybe kind of interesting on the short slate. I don't like the Astros at all going up against Paul Skeens, and I don't really like the Padres going up against Lance McCullers. McCullers gave us a very good start and gave us depth in his most recent outing. 12 strikeouts was really interesting. I actually picked them up for this start in the Dynasty League in a 2-start week for him. Cade Horton against Trevor Williams, another very high-end pitching prospect, but kind of a problematic matchup against the low strikeout, pretty decent Nationals, at least at the top end of that lineup. I'm a believer in Cade Horton, but the Nats look like they're coming in around a 4.5 run total, at least according to Labs. So I don't love that spot for him. Definitely would target Trevor Williams with some Chicago bats, but that's the most obvious offense spot of that slate. Looks like the Marlins are drawing a 4.9 implied against Chase Dollander, which is interesting. 14-mile-an-hour wind. That's probably going to have the roof closed, though. Top pitcher on that board is easily Paul Skeens. How's that? Bonus content. XX Cubs. Whoops. What did I just do? No. All right. XX Cubs says, can you go over your favorite stacks from the middle games? Why don't we just do the whole show over again? I know you're kidding. All right. Last two on deck. This monster ballpark for power. Definitely going to be playing up again. You can see some power coming through on the A side with 3 guys in the 9s and Brent Rooker above the magic number for home run upside against Pablo Lopez, who is not in any way problematic for home run power. So far this year, just a 2.21 home run rate on 31.6% hard hits, a terrific 5.2% barrel rate allowed. He's a fly ball pitcher, but when you can't hit the ball that hard against him, it doesn't really matter. Stuff Plus is at 95 this year. Last year, it was at 97, so a downturn, but not a significant one. What he did give up last year was more premium contact, not aggressively so as far as hard hits and exit velo, though. More hard hits for sure, but the exit velo is right around the same number. I would expect a cooling in the hard hits, but there were more barrels there. Some happenstance in that, some happenstance in the 3.37 home run rate, but was very good for strikeouts. Very solid strikeout to walk that he's maintained so far this year. 25-2 against 4.9 over his 10 starts this year. Last year, 25-6 against 5.3. Pitched to a 4.08 ERA, but a spectacular 3.36 xFIP. Exact same xFIP this year at 3.36, and it comes with a 2.75 ERA. So he's overperformed this year. 12.1% swinging strikes, slightly down from 12.9 last year. CSW slightly up. Similar numbers, but a bigger uptick for strikeouts the year before last. But he's been terrific the last 3 seasons. He's a very good pitcher who maybe not quite highly priced enough because it's a very high danger spot. So would play Pablo Lopez, especially at 93 on DraftKings, 98 on FanDuel works. I don't fully trust the spot, but he's a very good pitcher. There are plenty of strikeouts for him to go find. If he can avoid the home run ball, we're probably off and running. 27.1% strikeout rate for this A's projected lineup. That's with Jacob Wilson's 6.1 in there. Take that out of the equation, and I'll leave out the 47. Actually, I'll leave out both of those numbers, but I'll leave the 14.9 in there. And it just, never mind. Becomes 21.5. I had a 17 and a 14 in there. That doesn't really work. The point was supposed to be that all of their major power bats are actually somewhat vulnerable to strikeouts. Didn't really think it through because I forgot that Shea Langoliers was one of them and he's got strikeouts by 10 percentage points, but that seems to be fake. I don't really think he shaved that off of what he's always been. That would be a major surprise. So their home run guys are also vulnerable to the strikeout. Should help Pablo Lopez's upside, but it also feeds the downside with all those guys around the magic number for home runs. With this ballpark playing up power on a hot day with the wind blowing out again, could get problematic. The Twins are showing more upside, 5.88 implied total against Jacob Lopez. 6.32 ERA. No relation, I don't think, by the way, between these two. 6.32 ERA with a 5.58 xFIP, 21.8% Ks, and 11.5% walks in 15 and 2/3 over 3 starts. Obviously an unfair sample size. But last time out, just went an inning and 2/3, gave up 7 earned on 6 hits to 12 Toronto Blue Jays in Toronto. 2 home runs. Didn't even need the ballpark on his side. Allowed a home run in his outing against the Phillies prior to that one on the 23rd, but went 7 innings in that start. Struck out 8 in that start. So maybe the truth is somewhere in between, but even that would be a pretty low quality pitcher. If you could spike that Phillies day, then obviously there's some upside. But I think we come down more with the Vegas total that's approaching 6 runs. I think we come down more with some of these obvious power bats. I think if anything, the good start that Lopez put up 2 starts ago against the Phillies could maybe feed the beast if you're looking for an excuse to get away from the Twins on a very large slate on a day where, look, 6 runs is where Vegas has them. If they score 6 today at that kind of ownership, even with these ludicrously low prices, that might not win the slate. It almost certainly doesn't win the slate because there's a very high probability that 2 teams go off for more than that. They need to put up still the 10-something run day. And again, you're getting it all at high ownership. So that would be maybe the reason to swerve around the Twins. I walk directly into the chalk storm here. The Twins are in my placeholder lineup right now. I think they're too cheap to think about avoiding them. I think any concerns that you might have about popularity is taken care of by the just ridiculous preponderance of options on this slate. You can combine them with anything. So it's not a concern. I think you just go Twins. I think you eat the chalk. 57.36 for Byron Buxton, the only expensive player on this team. 10 home runs, 10 steals. He's a monster player anytime he's on the field. Major barrels, hard hits. A lot of strikeouts against not that many walks. That's maybe the one flaw. He did draw a 10.1% walk 2 years ago. Don't know what that sample looks like. He's always out of the lineup. Yeah, 347, his usual sample size. 17 homers that year, 388, 18 homers last year. Gets on base, hits the ball extremely hard. He is an absolute superstar and well worth those salaries in this ballpark against this pitcher. Fire away with Byron Buxton. If you get a Ryan Buxton in your lineup, he might be good too. Ryan Jeffers in the next spot, which is why I said Ryan there. 37.28 has been mix and match quality so far this year. 3 home runs on the board, but does put good wood on the ball. 8.8% barrels, 44% hard hits. Nothing to dislike about that. Low strikeout, medium walk to high walk each of the last few seasons. 9.30 in the home run model for 37.28 at catcher. That's ideal. He's going to be super popular on DraftKings. Probably a little less popular than he ought to be on FanDuel. We'll see how that works out. It's probably a more interesting FanDuel bat, but a more high priority DraftKings bat, if that makes sense. Ty France at 38.27 had a good day yesterday, if memory serves. 269, 332, 370 overall. We talked about his quality typically as just a get on base, medium quality contact guy. He hit 4 home runs, 8.6% barrel, 41.7% hard hits. Handful of the home runs came very early in the season, but he has cut strikeout back to his low rates from his good years. 21.3 was a spike last year. He's lost walk alongside that, but he's been very effective this year. 352 xWOB is encouraging for upside for more, especially in the power department, one would hope. Very playable option. I don't love him at first base, but if we're going to this game, there's every reason in the world to consider him. Carlos Correa is a super high priority today. My hope is that his continuing struggles keep people off of him more than they ought to. 2,800, 3,700 for that bat at shortstop is tremendous in this game. 6.1% barrels, 42.6% hard hits. In a vacuum for those prices at short, those numbers are perfectly fine. They're a little bit of a dip from the last 2 seasons, but not concerningly so. I think in a little bit of happenstance, he gets those back in a hurry. 18.5% strikeouts, same thing. Strikeouts are up a little bit. Walks are down a little bit. There's reasons for the underperformance in the slash line so far. 322 xWOBA is around the average. It's at least encouraging somewhat, but I'm still a big believer in the player. I think we get there in the long term. And it's another situation where I would rather be early if I can get the flaws to scare people away. I will take my shots. I do expect him to be very popular. Royce Lewis at 33.26, another player who should be very popular. Maybe the underperformance scares some people if they're just looking at the baseball card. 77 plate appearances of meh so far. 127, 195, 197. That's worse than meh. 1 home run at 292 ISO, a 10 WRC plus. Last year, 16 home runs and 325 chances, but was kind of weak around the slash line. 219 ISO and a 108 WRC plus, though. 15 homers in just 239 chances with a tremendous slash line 2 years ago. I think that in the ultimate sense, this is probably closest to the player. It's just been in and out of the lineup so much that it's difficult to really to get there with consistency. But that is a very real upside bat. Jonah Bride kind of mix and match. He does have a little pop in that bat. It's just been difficult to see. Harrison Bader, mix and match outfielder caliber, but all those guys, it's a rising tide effect with this team if they go off today, with the ballpark, with the cheap prices, and for the bottom two guys, the multi-position eligibility. Brooks Lee and Willie Castro, both very playable. 242, 283, 50, and 254, 338, 410. Willie has been the better player. Feel like that's a big uptick in the last couple of weeks, though. Wasn't he underperforming? If anything, it's him kind of getting back to form, but let's see. Yep. Since May 14th, totally arbitrary number on my part, 313, 421, 563 has hit 3 home runs, 427 WOBA, 182 WRC plus. It's been tremendous. And again, a return to form for Willie Castro. He was kind of scuffling along the way, much more playable now, 3,200, 2,900, multi-position option on both sides. Brooks Lee, though, don't sleep on that option. Probably going to be a little bit underappreciated. He's very cheap, so maybe he just gets caught up in the low pricing. But everyone in this lineup outside of Buxton is similarly cheap. So unless he hits way high up in the lineup, people probably do miss him a little bit more than they ought to. Puts decent bat on ball, 7.6% barrels, 16.7% strikeouts against 5.4% walks. Last year, similar numbers. So we're expecting a frequent amount of bat on ball. It's only resulted in 242, 283, 50 this year. Just a 295 xWOBA is not encouraging under the covers, but he's hit 4 home runs in that small sample. He's a effective enough bat to throw at this pitcher. Switch hitter. So you get him from the right side here for however long Jacob Lopez is in the game. Everybody will be batting right-handed against him. 419 in the home run model. That's a reasonable sneaky option. He does have some minor league pedigree. Reasonable down lineup option there. The A's bats going up against Pablo. Very playable, especially given the ballpark, especially given the power. We talked about Pablo and all his quality, though. Good pitcher probably beats good bats, especially when there are so many strikeouts for him to go get. It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't knock me out of my chair, though, if the A's had a 6-run day against Pablo and then put another 5 up against the bullpen. Could easily be that kind of a day for the A's. So they're in no way off the board at a 4.24 implied total. Rooker at 11.49. He's hit 13 home runs. Soderstrom's got a dozen. He's at 9.79 in the home run model. Langalier's at 10, 9.11 in the home run model, and Lawrence Butler at 9.05. I know I talked about some of those guys, and those are the obvious guys up at the top. Once you get down bottom here, Luis Urias remains very playable. 254, 345, 415. Creating runs 19% better than average over 168 plate appearances. 6 home runs on the board. He's always put okay bat on ball. Low strikeout, high walk so far this year. That's not really characteristic in the strikeout department from him. But been a believable option and remains really cheap, and people won't use that at second base on either side. Third base is not ideal. Second base is where you want him. CJ Alexander, still the dead min, 21 on FanDuel, same thing. 17 pretty bad plate appearances so far, but should be some quality there in the long term. Denzel Clark, also very cheap. He's hit a home run. He's stolen 3 bases in his 34 plate appearances. 36.4% hard hits, 9.1% barrels, also 61.8% strikeouts in those 34 plate appearances. Obviously, a young kid still finding his way, but helps pay for a lot at those cheap prices down lineup, and those guys are usable. You probably want 1, not 2 from like here down, either of those bottom 2 guys, but you can take Urias and one of those 2 guys. So like him, Clark. If I took Clark there, I'd probably forgo Butler and go Wilson, Rooker, Soderstrom. And now I'm at 3,680, so 3,700 apiece for 5 A's. It's all right. I don't love taking shots at Pablo, but he's also among the slightly below ace caliber pitchers, I guess. He is somewhat gettable from time to time. Don't hate the A's today. This goes Twins bats, Pablo, A's bats, and I really wouldn't consider Jacob Wilson. I think that's a mistake. Last game of the day, the Mets, the Dodgers. And we unfortunately do have to talk about Tyler McGill again, at least a little bit. Not McGilligan, McGill again. 5 2/3 last time out, struck out 6 White Sox, 10 strikeouts over just 4 2/3 of 1-run ball against the Red Sox at Fenway Park. Problematic outing against the Yanks, just 2 2/3, gave up 4 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, and most problematically 5 walks in that game, which was wildly inefficient. Loses some walks along the way for sure. 11.4% for the season so far. But what's the next thing I'm going to say? 30.4% strikeouts. Has really, really found his strikeout form and was already a pretty decent strikeout pitcher. 11.1% swinging against a 30.1% CSW, 109 mark by Stuff Plus. Has kept the ball in the yard so far, despite allowing a lot of exit velo, a lot of hard hits. Low end barrel rate at 6%. He's managed to miss barrels a little bit. That's saving his life in the home run department because that's a lot of hard hit, a lot of exit velo. That's your problem. Throwing those two numbers right there against these Dodgers bats and their low strikeout ability and their high walk ability, they are very properly oriented to exploit the downside of Tyler McGill. I do think you could get a surprise day, though. 5 and change of 7-8 strikeout, 2-3 run ball. I think that's in the cards. It's really going to come down to his walks. I think that's going to be the issue today. If he manages walks somewhat effectively against this team that's ludicrously good at drawing walks, I think he has a little bit of a day for 83, 86. He's not the recommendation if you're building one lineup. He's not even the recommendation if you're building 20 lineups. You should be in a few maybe, but it's not like aggressive. If you're building 150 or even like 50 or whatever, if you're building a lot of lineups, I think he gets more interesting the more lineups you build. Because I can tell you for sure, people aren't going to go here. You'd have to be really dumb to want to play Tyler McGill against the Dodgers as I'm selling it. McGill is checking in at very low single-digit ownership projection. He's much more talented than that. And those prices are much more effective than that. Again, the Dodgers are at the second highest implied total on the entire slate. One of 2 teams over 5 at 5.21. They have a 10.5% average walk rate that was the same number last year. 20% strikeouts is an improvement upon last year. They have Max Muncy you can finally see again, finally mashing again, drawing his walks, not striking out. It's a really challenging spot. This pitcher is good enough to beat this team on the right day and find some strikeouts along the way. Clay Kershaw, 69-73 against a Mets team when he's only thrown 83, 26, and 74 pitches in his last 3 outings. Don't think we're going there. I don't think we get enough pitch count, even for the cheap pricing at 69-73. 12% strikeouts against 12% walks so far, a 4.91 ERA, a 4.67 xFIP. This is not the Clay Kershaw that I think we all remember. I don't think we go there. Mets bats against at a 4.40 implied total, definitely on the board. Some solid power numbers through the middle. Juan Soto, we've talked about quite a bit. The hard hits, the barrels are, not that crazy far off the mark. And if you just take the name off the jersey, they're tremendous. On their own, those are terrific, terrific numbers, especially when they come with that, with the higher walk rate than strikeout rate. Again, 10 home runs on the season, a 196 ISO, a 430 xWOBA. That's just ludicrous. He's one of the very best hitters, if not the very best hitter in all of baseball. 5,400, 3,900, you're getting a little bit of a discount for the struggles. 52-42 for Pete, you're getting a little bit of a discount for the quality he's put up this season on DraftKings. 42 on FanDuel is more correct. 12 home runs. He's also carrying a 425 xWOBA. 252 ISO. Technically, there could be a little bit more from Pete. 18.8% barrels, 55.3% hard hits. He's kind of weirdly underperformed the contact that he's been making this season. He's tremendous. 52-42. That is not bad. On FanDuel, you do get high end there. If you just top for it, that's still a $3,700 average. So you need to get creative to stack the top of this lineup on FanDuel. Don't know how much you can get there. It's probably best as like an expensive 3-man. And you forego the 4th spot for a very discounted player from another team. Right? Like if, I guess you could use Ronnie Mauricio from down lineup too if you get him. Ideally, Ronnie Mauricio would be hitting like 6. We don't have this yet, do we? If you get Mauricio higher in the lineup, that becomes more interesting because you can go, what does that give us? 35, 25. That's still over 35, though. I was hoping we could get 35 or below if we averaged that in. I didn't do the math in my head. Challenging to stack those top-end Mets for sure and still get to a good pitcher on FanDuel. They're much more user-friendly on DraftKings where you can average that price down with two more guys. Starling Marte, if he's sitting second, is interesting. 32-26. Just 3 homers, 4 steals so far. Getting on at a 339 clip, though. 340 xWOBA should continue to be a good table setter, if nothing else. Low strikeout, medium walk, a lot of contact. He's reasonable. He's not at all expensive. Helps average the price down. Lindor in the top spot, 14 homers, 11 steals, been on fire lately. He's an absolute monster, superstar caliber player, 40% better than average for run creation this year. Nimmo continues to scuffle when we look at the 232, 295 part of the slash line. 419 slug is all right, just a 187 ISO, 342 xWOB under the covers, 9 home runs, striking out at just a 19.2% clip. The walks are down a little bit. That's hurt the on base. We've lost some quality there, but we've gained in the contact department. Maybe he's just a different guy now. 10.5% barrels, 52.5% hard hits, 36.29. I'll pay those prices for that kind of premium contact. Tyrone Taylor against the lefty, you can throw him into the mix. Maybe that's where we run into like the Clay Kershaw of it, though. I don't know that it's that appealing to play him against Kershaw. Frankie Alvarez, kind of the same thing. A young power bat that does have tons and tons of raw power, 8.8% barrels and 47.4% hard hits in a small sample is nice this year. 1 home run, just a .071 ISO for his efforts, though. Ronnie Mauricio is a high-end prospect. That's why I mentioned him. In 73 plate appearances in the minors so far this year, 3 home runs, 6 stolen bases, 6 steals, 323, 384, 508, creating runs 38% better than average. In 532 plate appearances in 2023 with the Mets minor league organization. Wait. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's all at AAA. So still with the Mets, but AAA entirely. 292, 346, 506, 23 home runs, 24 stolen bases, 18.2% strikeouts, a 214 ISO. Came up that season for 108 plate appearances in the show, slash just 248, 296, 347. Ran into a little bit of a challenge at the major league level, but was only 22 at the time. Hit 2 home runs, stole 7 bases, missed the 2024 season. Back with a vengeance right now. At the min price, he's real interesting against the corpse of Clay Kershaw. Like I said, I kind of hope he's hitting here, if not 5th, because then you get direct correlation with those guys. Luis Angel, 11 steals, pretty mediocre slash line, 71 WRC plus. Been a little bit ugly so far for Luis Angel, but there is pedigree there. On the Dodgers side, what can I say? Shohei Ohtani, 14.32, undeniable in the home run model, 22.2% barrel, 64% hard hits, and it says Ohtani on the back of his jersey, so he's just fun to play. 23 home runs, 11 stolen bases, a 369 ISO. He's ridiculous. Mookie at 53.37, highly playable on FanDuel with 3 positions, including second and short, 8 home runs, 5 steals. Super playable as a $5,300 shortstop on DraftKings, but he's kind of underperformed the talent, underperformed the power upside that we know he has. He's still creating runs 12% better than average. Still a critical part of Dodger stacks. Freddie at 57.41, monster slash line with 9 homers. Teoscar Hernandez, monster premium contact, 10 homers in just 189 plate appearances, missed a little bit of time, tremendous slash line, 244 ISO, creating runs 34% better than average. Will Smith, 12% barrels, 45.6% hard hits. This is why we're worried about Tyler McGill today. These guys are ridiculous. 331, 442, 500 out of Will Smith so far with 5 homers, a 406 xWOBA, 168 WRC plus. Max Muncy has not been priced back up yet. 3,800. Take advantage right now. He can see. Apparently that was the issue. He got glasses. Where is the stupid tweet about his glasses? Well, I'm not going to. Oh, there. Nope, that's Max Meyer. Somebody tweeted about it somewhere. I'm not going to worry about it because we are short on time. Max Muncy's been mashing lately. He's up to 7 home runs, 223, 347, 397. He was already drawing his walks. He's always been 3 true outcomes. He is not dead. Do not write him off. Take advantage of those cheap prices if you're going Dodgers, which every reason in the world to. Outside of some strikeout downside with Max, Love the option on any given slate, and he'll probably still linger in lower ownership than he ought to. Andy Pajas having a tremendous year, 282, 330, 479, 11 home runs, 197 ISO. Creating runs 27% better than average. Conforto's been kind of coming on too lately. He's still lingering at 170, 317, 279, just 3 home runs and a stolen base, but 10.7% barrels, 44.6% hard hits, 15.3% walks, and 202 plate appearances. There are things to like about that. 337 xWOBA to support the upside. Obviously, this needs to rise. The 109 ISO, the 79%, 79 WRC plus, 21 points below average. Obviously problematic, but there's tons of upside. Tommy Edman has normalized completely. 245, 285, 478. Still a nice home run total and a high ISO, but the performance day by day is bringing all those numbers down to where they ought to be. He's playable because he's not priced up anymore. 4,000 is reasonable. 31 is reasonable. You probably want him at second base if you use him. And that's how we round out our Dodgers stack. That was a poor way to end the show. Blah, 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 blah. That's your pitching board. Again, ace caliber guys from Sanchez up, and that's a tier, with maybe the exception of Kirby, who is that good, but probably lacks ceiling for a lack of pitch count today. That would be my concern there. Then you get a tier of medium strength quality that goes pretty far down the board. Honestly, all those guys are in one big tier. Gibson Long is now off that board, though. He's too high priced there to be used in the follower situation, I think. But any one of these guys is at least reasonable. There's obvious downside in a lot of them. Big Vegas total working against Michael Lorenzen, but I think he's good enough to beat that team. Sugano, definitely a lot of downside with all the power we're seeing from Seattle. Roop, a lot of downside from San Diego's low strikeout approach. Shane Smith could get obliterated by Detroit. Brian Bayo against the Angels when they're showing good premium upside for fantasy projections and maybe some power against a guy who can go back and forth for it. Bybee against the Yankees. You get it. It's not safe in that entire tier. That's why McGill is kind of on the board, given his just raw strikeout stuff. SP1, you got a lot of straightforward, kind of obvious options. SP2 gets really, really sticky on this slate. This is an ugly, messy slate today. Home run pick of the day was Rowdy Tellez from the Seattle Mariners. Love the lefty bats in that game. Let me punch out of here so I can get the site updated. Craig Biancone says one last comment on Hunter Green. Tremendous. Probably the highest ceiling pitcher on the slate. Right? He's right here. He's projected right next to all these guys. Could easily have come in with a few more points on that projection. I do think there's a little bit of lingering downside in the potential for a capped pitch count. But even in a 5 and change innings performance, we could still see a 10 strikeout day. He's got that high quality stuff. I do think there's some downside for premium contact. There's downside from the ballpark, but he's tremendous, a little bit less expensive than some of the surrounding options with equivalent, if not greater, upside. That is, as Gundacker said, the scumdacker game of the day, though, I think. Just that is very much an all four sides game because I like Freddy Peralta. I like Hunter Green. I like the Reds bats and I like the Brewers bats all in that ballpark. There's probably slightly more upside for the bats, just given the nature of that game, the run totals, the ballpark. I think that the bats do put a few runs on both pitchers. Where the rubber meets the road in that, though, is do they blow up either of those pitchers? And the answer to that also kind of probably becomes no. So that's why it's just a big, messy game that's like very much the nature of this entire slate. It's very caught in the middle. And that has been true up and down. Hopefully I gave you guys some value on this show. I feel like I've been talking just in circles on a lot of these games, but we've been doing it for 3 hours plus. The length of Dune 2 and then you go back and watch the beginning of Dune 1 again. Anyway, let me punch out of here, get the website updated so that people can actually use these projections. If you, non-subscribed person, I'm pointing at you, looking down the barrel of the camera. If you are out there and you're looking for projections and you're not familiar, under $1 a day gets you access to MLB, NBA, NHL, NFL at rotoscouts. You get every single hitter projection. You get every single pitcher projection. You get my custom home run number for every single player on every slate, every main slate. You get my top stacks tool. You get Joker and his feedback down there. Home run picks. Lot to work with over at rotoscouts. Under $1 a day. So from today to next Tuesday for less than $7. Give it a look. You also get those basketball and hockey games in between. Check out our guys over at acemine.io for sim and optimization needs. Promo code rotoscouts, all in caps, 20% off your first month. Give Gundacker a little bit of love at his website. Hit the like button and subscribe on the way out the door. That helps more than you probably think. Do that. Doesn't cost you anything on your way out the door. Thank you guys so much for everything. Appreciate all you guys hanging out. Everybody catching up on hopefully like 5x speed right now. A lot of content and not much time before the slate starts. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do. Love seeing them. We saw some yesterday. I want to see more with bigger numbers on them today. Go get them, gang. We'll see you tomorrow.